Hey, now it decided to work.
Maybe. Oh yeah, there it goes. I have the link.
Sorry about that. Probably no one's going to get notified of this, so it's going to be our special secret.
Now,
Yours, secret, and Linode.
but if you still have the other chat open because we can't get back to it, go post this URL
Yes.
in the other chat.
I can't get back to it now. It's disconnected.
Okay.
So it's just gonna be weird.
Well, today's episode is brought to you by Linode. Traham has made it back. Did Anthony make it back? Hello, good sir. How's it going? This episode is brought to you by Linode. So I'm going to do the Linode spot once again. I don't know. You do the Linode spot.
You know what? If Linode had built this streaming platform, we wouldn't be having these problems.
We wouldn't be having this problem right now.
That's the thing to keep in mind.
And you totally can. Didn't we build PeerTube on Linode? Isn't it glorious?
Hey, we might be messing around with PeerTube in the future. And yes, we did build it on Linode. I don't know if it'll continue to live there because it's probably a lot of bandwidth. But you can totally do it. And I forgot to record that process. So maybe there'll be a video about it, maybe there won't.
You always look at me with those cold stoic eyes when I'm like, look at this amazing thing that I did, and then I didn't record it, and you're just like, so it's nice that the shoe's on the other foot for a change.
But hey, if you are one of these people who says to yourself, listen guys, I watch on Floatplane or whatever, or I go here, or these people are like, please post to these other platforms, I hate YouTube, maybe PeerTube. And if you want to do your own thing with PeerTube, you totally can. And seems like a cool platform so far. We haven't used it a ton, but we're going to.
Well, we were doing the configuration on Linode for the PeerTube thing, and it seemed like it would be super easy to also stream to Floatplane at the same time. So that's exciting.
Yeah. And PeerTube also does live streaming stuff, which we also played with. So you could do all this without all that GUI. The go live from PeerTube compared to the go live on YouTube is incredibly simple. There's like 5 clicks. Anyway, Linode. We love them. We use them. We used them before they started giving us money, but after they started giving us money, oh my God, we love them so much more.
We do love Linode. Check out the link below.
Also, they've been generous. I think we still have of course this month will eat away at it, but they gave us like $300 worth of credit to run the Minecraft server because people loved it so much.
Yeah.
They're good to our community.
They are.
So
Thank you.
And they have a good service.
All right, so we got the live news for you today. This is normally the news that you get next week. Patrons get it on Monday night, and everybody else gets it through the rest of the week. So this is next week's news. This is the news for the first week of March, just so you understand.
And if you're one of those people who's like, I'd rather get it every day, you're just going to have to control yourself. You're going to have to watch in blocks.
Pace yourself.
We'll let you know when each block is finished. Then you stop, save it for the next day. I know you won't. I know you'll binge it.
You'll watch all of it at once.
Actually, that's really arrogant to say, isn't it? You probably won't. You don't care.
They'll download it and never listen to it. They're like, I'll listen to that in the car. And they don't.
Are you prepping donations? Are
Yeah,
we ready?
We've already got a
I'm
flood of
also doing
donations.
that.
Just trying to keep up.
Shall
I'm
we
sorry.
embark?
Yes, let's get on with the news.
Oh, all these terrible donations. Please stop.
No. Anything but that.
Everybody's going to comment with the timestamp. It's just like 00 to like 3 minutes, just total BS. All right, the news starts here.
The news starts here, yeah.
Well, speaking of total BS, or perhaps finally we're turning around from a government agency that was a lot of BS for about 4 years. And I mean, this doesn't affect me, but it does seem like people are having a problem with this. I don't know that it's a problem with the government per se, more like the government corporate marriage that we had there for 4 years, of which the bride was none other than Ajit Pai. But Ajit has been replaced. Lady Rosenworcel is in the driver's seat now. So we get this.
FCC proposes rules for emergency broadband program to keep struggling families online. And if you read this, it is actually incredibly very sad. Like, it's very sad. But it's not directly sad. You can think about why this program is needed, and then it becomes very, very sad. Basically, this is just $20 to $50 a month and up to $100 one time for some devices or equipment. And that's the level of poverty that we're dealing with in some communities. But we come from kind of a poor area, and there's a level of poverty such that getting internet access when you're that poor is just not on the table. Even like a $20 or $50 credit, it's just not going to happen. So this is not even to help like the poor people. This is to help like the wealthy poor people.
Also, $50 a month. Are there even any plans that are $50 a month?
I think at that level you can get like the low income plan, and that's probably $15-20. I don't know. Engagement challenge. Anybody out there on a low income plan? What does it cost you? But it's they're not giving you stuff for free. It is just trying to help you. But if you think about the difference between that discount that they're so lovingly giving us, the government, if we just had the same prices as, let's say, Korea, we wouldn't need it.
Or our homies in Estonia, your internet is very nice.
It would already be cheap enough that we could all afford it. So instead you let the ISPs do whatever they want, and then you take the tax money, and then you also give that to the ISPs. That's the solution. And somehow that's better than what we had.
Isn't that horrifying?
Ugh.
Incredible. Krista, you are just about to move into your rural dream home.
I am.
You were almost one of these people, but luckily you do have cable out there.
Yeah, we have decent internet out there. They should be coming Monday. So the next episode of the news, next episode may still be filmed here, but maybe the one after that, I'll be in the new office.
You're doing a lazy move, Krista.
Well, we're taking our time. We've got lots of little stuff that we've already moved over, but we're doing furniture next weekend, so it's a process.
It's a lazy move. Come on.
That's a process. There's a lot of stuff to purge.
Yeah, well,
that's the best part of moving, I think.
You know what else is a process that has a lot of moving parts, and it's kind of like a shark. You don't ever want it to stop moving, because that starts costing a lot of people a lot of money.
The Fed system that allows banks to send money back and forth went down for several hours. This is part of the system that we always joke about it being horribly insecure.
The big one here is ACH. If you've ever worked with like an online broker, hey, if you're part of the Wall Street Bets gang, you've used ACH to move money into and out of your accounts. It's also, they have all these little like side things, Fed Cash, Fed Link. All these programs do kind of the same thing. None of them worked for a while.
I think it was like almost a full day.
Yeah.
No further information was available. They just said it was a glitch.
Yeah. Somebody pushed an update.
Was it a Russian glitch?
Yeah.
Was it a solar winds glitch?
Russia and China are working on a replacement for SWIFT, but I guess every country has its own ACH type thing, right?
Yeah.
Oh. And we talked a little bit about this last week, but we know a little bit more about it now as in terms of exactly what it's going to be, which at this point it's kind of just like, we need to do better type of thing. But they did lay out a couple of bullet points, like here's some steps we have to take.
Biden signs an executive order to address the chip shortage through a review and strengthen supply chains. That's not what the headline should have been. The headline should have been that U.S. experts estimate that this chip shortage is going to continue pretty much through 2021, probably into 2022. So if you were looking to buy a video card, good luck.
And a lot of these solutions, quote unquote solutions, are more fabrication in the U.S. But of course, the lead time on that is it 5 years, something like that?
Yeah, you remember? Now, hang on, you got to step back. This is for all the longtime viewers of Level 1. You remember how we were talking about Samsung putting a fab in Texas? And you remember those stories that we do about how like they lost power for 30 minutes in Korea and they had to shovel like, $25 million of flash because they didn't have power for 20 minutes. And then we had that cold snap in Texas that exposed the, dangerous and incompetently maintained infrastructure there. Do you think Samsung's looking at that and reconsidering the expansion in Texas?
I don't think.
I would be surprised if any company is like, maybe we should have some sort of backup system if we decide to go to Texas.
But it's so unlikely to happen again in the near term.
That's like a problem for the shareholders and stuff 10 years from now.
That's a problem for Samsung 5 years from now.
Yeah.
I mean, if Samsung was looking at building capacity, which would help and is part of the whole Biden thing, you got to figure that those companies are looking at Texas like, wow, this was a bullet that we dodged, because if they're spending $10 billion, it seems like it would be important to them.
I don't think they care at all about stuff like that. I think it's all based on how much of a tax break are you going to give us? How much money are you going to put in our pockets to employ your overpriced labor? I think that's the question. And I think Biden is kind of signaling here a lot. We're going to give you a lot.
Please.
Just look at what we do with our ISPs.
Well, that might be good news for Global Foundries then. It's sort of fun to think about Global Foundries getting back in the game for like 7 nanometers and beyond if the federal government is willing to give them money.
I mean, we throw money at a lot worse stuff.
Yeah, we do.
So, this is a terrible website, KJZZ. I imagine this is a local radio station or something, but terrible, terrible design. But they have a story about Arizona. Now, with the new administration and this whole new leftist wave, we're getting a lot of laws being modified that retroactively change prison sentences. One of the big things they're talking about now is the whole like nonviolent drug offenders. Hey, let's just wave a wand and let them all out, which probably isn't a terrible idea. But one thing that the ivory tower politicians don't understand is software runs prisons.
Whistleblowers, a software bug keeping hundreds of inmates in Arizona prisons beyond their release dates. So you're in prison for a nonviolent crime, and if you do the community program and you do this and you do that, under the law, you should be able to get out a number of years, in some cases, early. Well, the software wasn't built to deal with that, and all of the people running the prison system are too stupid or too apathetic to actually care. So unless you've got somebody really strongly advocating for you from the outside, chances are you're not going to get out early, even though that's what you were promised. Even though under the law, you're not required to be there.
One of the quotes that they found from the people who understood the software when this law came about, I think it was in 2019, was, "We're in deep expletive." They knew they couldn't fix it, and in fact, they didn't fix it.
You know, we joke about struggling with the algorithm here at level 1, but the algorithm is literally keeping people incarcerated.
Yeah. And I got to imagine if you have a decent lawyer, you could do something about this, but probably most of these people, you know, nonviolent drug offenders are probably not. They don't have money and they don't have decent lawyers.
Once again, the criminally poor suffer.
But a shot caller cartel guy, he'd be out already because his lawyers, you know, are going to be all over this.
His cartel continues to function in his absence, generating revenue and to pay the lawyers. Yeah, I mean, that is kind of how that works.
This is like if Prison Architect was real. It's like you didn't set your parole program.
Yeah. What's the penalty in Prison Architect if you don't do that, Krista?
It'll start like blinking a little notification that's like, you have like 20 prisoners up for parole. You need to build a parole room.
They should hire the guy that did Prison Architect to update their algorithm.
It's pretty much the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Very realistic.
If you're Australian, the big news last week and this week
and the week before
was you going to war with Facebook. And I don't know, it was tough to pick a dog in that fight. They're both wrong.
This whole situation is so difficult to explain because it's so clouded by people trying to spin it as to what it is and what it isn't.
And of course, we all hate Facebook. I mean, come on. Who doesn't hate Facebook? I think even the people who love using Facebook kind of hate it a little bit. But on the other side of that, the argument, it was like, wow, it really does look like you kind of got a gun to their head and you're just asking them to pay you because they don't have a choice in turning this stuff down. Basically, they have to take your news and they have to pay you for it. So there was some negotiation.
Australia passes a law to make Google and Facebook pay for news. And this is the Associated Press version of that article. There were some last-minute amendments, which we'll get to in another story. But, okay, we could do the story right now. I mean, that's fine. Facebook strikes a last-minute deal with Australia around news content. It wasn't really last minute. Facebook actually preemptively banned everything. But Australia also agreed to 4 amendments. But they gave themselves an out. They said, Facebook, if you don't play by the rules, these amendments are not going to apply to you. But Facebook said, good enough, and a deal was struck. This is kind of sort of the best explanation I've seen for this is that people doing the news can kind of get a collective bargaining agreement to negotiate with Google and Facebook and other, large tech companies. And that kind of makes sense, but it kind of doesn't.
But also, they got rid of that gun to your head thing. So in the original spec, if you were like, hey, we don't want this news, they could be like, well, you're taking it anyway, and here's what you're going to pay us for it. And Facebook said, we can't do that. So now they get a certain amount of time to negotiate that. And if they can't find a middle ground, then there's a certain amount of time for appeals and like dealing with it. Whereas before, they would immediately run afoul of the law.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that, you know who really benefits from this? Facebook lawyers.
Rupert Murdoch also. Not Rupert Murdoch. Is it Rupert Murdoch? No.
He's the Australian that owns the news.
Yeah.
He's the news magnet.
They'll
Just
benefit
having
from
all that explained makes me exhausted thinking about having to deal with that.
It is really complicated. I mean, there's not really anything that pre-exists this that fits within the framework we already have. So we're trying to use a legal framework with things like unions and union busting and, collective negotiation. But these things don't really apply in the modern age.
But imagine being the Facebook engineer who has to try to build that interface. Because
that's what's making me exhausted.
Yeah, we've done some work with contract law, like a software that generates contracts, and just they were like, oh, hey, we're going into a new state, and everything's different, all new laws. What?
Dozens of new edge cases that have been introduced by this.
I think the Level 1 News needs a scale for these kind of stories that we can really quickly and easily explain to the viewer, like how good or how bad it is. And I propose the scale of human misery. Engagement challenge.
What is the name of that unit of measurement, chat?
Well, we can see that live.
So you look at this and it's like, is the net amount of human suffering and misery more or less now that, like Facebook and Google and Apple being allowed to be as large as they are, is that necessary for innovation and the advancement of society? Or does the effect of companies being that large net increase human suffering and misery?
Nobody's forcing anybody to use those products. I think humans flock to things that make them miserable in some cases. Well, actually, I mean, look at heroin, for example. Basically the same as Facebook.
My suffering has no price, says the chat.
So,
well, welcome. You're going to love our news program.
All of that Australian stuff is a little settled. I imagine there'll be some changes, don't you think, in the near term? That engineer, he's going to get this working, and they're going to be like, let's change most of this. Yeah. But that's not the only thing that the Aussies want the big tech companies to bow down to. This one is it's a little more political control. And people, I think, won't be as angry about this one, but it could be misused easily.
Facebook, Google, Microsoft, TikTok, and Twitter adopt Aussie misinformation code. The code will not apply to government content, political advertising, satirical work, or other journalistic pieces that are governed by existing Australian law. So basically, they're trying to keep the craziest of the crazy. Like they're starting the slope. The slippery slope is almost flat where they're starting, but there is a very slight incline.
And there's no trees here.
No.
So the soil really loose.
There's going to be a landslide.
Yeah.
It's what they call loamy. There's a lot of loam in the soil.
So they were very careful to point out, it's like, now we're not going to be the arbiters of the truth. But then they kind of go on to explain they're going to be the arbiters of the truth. So if they decide that whatever you're posting on Facebook is quote unquote misinformation, then there's going to be a system of laws on how that gets dealt with. And all the tech companies, now it is optional, but you imagine if you opt out of it, you're going to get in the same kind of situation where it's like, okay, now we have to fight with the government like Facebook did.
I'm not allowed to post on the Level 1 News that I don't like the Australian law because it also benefits Rupert Murdoch. It's like, that's fake news. We're going to take that down. Okay.
Yeah, that kind of thing could happen. So it'd be interesting. I mean, we're going to have so much more talk about this one. What I have not seen yet, but I haven't really been searching for it, is who is our guy in Australia who understands this and is going to write the pieces that are like, no, this is bad.
The Kyle Wiggers of Australia,
exactly.
as it were.
The Kyle, yes.
What
Kyle
a good
Wiggers
way
of
of putting it.
That's who we need. Myanmar, or Myanmar, or however you pronounce it.
Myanmar.
Let's hope
Burma.
that amongst all this upheaval, they change the name again. Let's get something a little more pronounceable for us Western folks.
Burma was fine.
Because that's what matters.
Yeah, but Burma was the conquered name. I understand why they changed that. I would want to change my name if I was conquered and given him a name.
Myanmar doesn't fit in the Animaniacs Countries of the World song.
Well, there you go. It's got to rhyme with Burma. That's the new rule. But anyway, they had a coup and they turned off the internet. And, we actually talked about this. And it's like, what do you think it would take here in the U.S.? Because a lot of countries have sort of consolidated internet service. They go and they turn off 5 or 6 different places. And that's the only places it comes into the country. What was the country that had one? Remember that?
Iran's only got 1 or 2.
I think it was like a North African country.
Oh, yeah.
I remember we did a story about it because that one line got cut in the ocean, and then it was like, oh.
And they only had the one.
Internet.
Well, Myanmar, I don't think they were quite in that situation, but they did have, limited places where the internet comes into the country. And rather than bother with, like software or whatever, they took an old school approach.
Digital firewall in Myanmar built with guns and wire cutters. As the military seized power once again, the generals moved quickly to take the country offline. This is kind of a long article, but there's a lot of interesting stuff in here. Like, for example, there's like a, Computer Professionals Association. I think it's like the Computer Janitors Association of Myanmar. The military pretty much immediately knew that they were going to have a problem with technology, so they showed up at the president's house to arrest him just because he was there, at least according to this article.
You mean the president of that association?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just a rando, like a pro rando, like you and me. That would be like somebody arresting, the leader of like the U.S. Plumbers Association.
They also talk about how these guys showed up at the ISPs and they literally brought their rifles in with them. And they said, turn this off. And the people with a rifle in their face said, yes, sir. I will do that immediately. But now think about this. A lot of you work in IT, and a lot of you have painstakingly run cables and bundled them and color coded them. And they describe how these military guys just walked in with bolt cutters and just randomly just snipped, just started cutting stuff. They didn't know what they were cutting. They didn't care. They just
I feel like if they did that at our office, like one of those guys would die. They might take out one of our IT dudes, but like he would probably take out more.
What weapon? Engagement
He would get
challenge.
so angry.
What weapon would the IT? If you're in a server room, what's the best weapon that you can grab?
He'd be wearing 2U server body armor. Like he would just put some straps on the server, and so like there's this big 2U like.
But he's got
skirt
no time.
flap.
He can't prepare.
I mean,
They just show up at the door.
Pop it out of the rack. Use the power cords as a strap. You're good to go.
That's why you stay strapped. You got to be ready for when they come in with the wire cutters.
Well, Chris, I don't see any armor on you right now.
That's true. I'm not prepared.
It would be funny to also like maybe they could tip one of the racks and like crush their enemy with that. Just
I think that'd probably get your family killed.
Yeah.
In the current situation that they're in, I wouldn't recommend it. I would say if you are a Myanmarite, don't do that. But of course, I don't need to tell you that because you don't have the internet. You can't.
If you can clear it with the State Department, you can stay in my basement. I mean, that's fine.
Your scary basement at the new house.
There's probably like a political refugee rule that we could loophole there, right?
I'd probably make interesting videos.
Put them to work.
We could get that association leader guy. I mean, that would be interesting. Put him to work and probably be productive, helping with content. I mean, it's a win-win.
Well, one problem that people might have with that is that there's a bit of a stigma using certain foreign workers right now because certain foreign countries just can't stop slurping up all of our data. And this situation, we're not positive yet, but it seems like maybe old Clubhouse has some holes in it that we didn't previously know. Now, the first one has nothing to do with the nation state. This just some enterprising individual figured out how to break them.
The headline, I'm not, Clubhouse chats are breachable or being breached or recording. So this article is about how some audio recordings from Clubhouse are showing up on websites, which is weird because it's not supposed to be recorded.
Yeah, and we're not talking about this guy like having his phone on speaker and running
Clubhouse, the hot new app.
Yeah, he wasn't recording the output of the phone. He managed the API into a web embed and was just showing people Clubhouses on his website.
Neat.
Now they've banned him.
Neat, but also terrifying.
Well, the one thing they point out in this article, and you have to agree with them, is the real problem here is that anyone assumed that this couldn't happen.
Yeah. Oh, it's chat, not text, so it's ethereal and or ephemeral, and it'll just go away and not be a big deal. Yeah, it turns out that's not the case at all. Like, not even a little bit, not even remotely.
There's another Clubhouse. It's in the government. It's in government chat. You don't have to wait for another day though. You just stay tuned.
Yeah, just stick around.
I've switched from milk to coffee.
You know, I looked over and I was like, is that just, does he have so much additives in that coffee that it's white?
No, it's just milk.
Oh, okay.
How else am I going to get my vitamin D? Go outside? I don't think so.
Oh, it's overcast today. So, WhatsApp, that's a popular app that a lot of people like, and they've decided to make some changes to it. But maybe you're the kind of person who doesn't like to make updates. Well, they've thought about that.
WhatsApp to switch off messages for all who reject the new terms. This is something we've been watching with a little bit of glee because, Facebook changed the terms and then everybody revolted. And then I think in that story we said, it's going to be bad. Don't worry. And so now they're actually going to turn people off if they don't accept by the 15th, which there'll probably be another revolt and they'll probably walk this back. Or I might introduce you to Signal. Signal's not a terrible application. Probably a really amazing NSA honeypot, but also not a really terrible application.
Oh, couldn't be worse.
I'll say how long until it's compromised, though.
Now, they claim that this is not about adding Facebook analytics to WhatsApp. They claim this is about adding a form of payments to WhatsApp. Like you can pay companies directly somehow in WhatsApp now. But a lot of people are saying no, it's because you want that extra analytics in there, and we don't want it.
Yeah.
So who do you believe? Parler is the maybe the biggest new social media. Well, maybe that's Clubhouse. But Parler was big there for a little while. And, it certainly had its share of controversy. But it came back, risen from the dead. However, one piece of it was missing.
Parler, a social media platform that stands for free speech, temporarily blocked its founder. I know it's a ban because I know how the architecture works. I can't log in anymore. I can't help but laugh.
Just bans all the way down.
So, as far as I can tell, some people got on the board who were in politics, or big right-wingers, because Parler's like a right-wing thing usually. And they felt that this guy wasn't towing the party line enough. I think he sort of took the position, he was like, no, Parler is not a right-wing mouthpiece. Parler's just free for everybody.
I like this. The most surprising thing from this is that Parler actually had a ban ability.
Well, they started banning like the second day. Remember that? Because they were like, we don't censor, and people were like, let's test that, and they started banning them.
And they got
you guys
from
remember a little
Amazon.
site called 4chan? Let's test that.
So anyway, but he is you got to give him a little bit of credit. They have turned his account back on, and he is back on the service. But I think he's trying to get people to switch to Telegram now.
Oh,
Yeah, it's crazy. So Parler, it's back, but it isn't exactly what it was before. And one thing that we have known has been coming for a while, and I think they've said spring. They didn't give us an exact date, but spring. That's soon. That's coming up, and that is the Apple privacy stuff. And you know who was really, really feeling that deadline?
Facebook and their new PR blitz touts the benefits of personalized ads ahead of Apple's privacy feature. I like the headline. I mean, good ideas deserve to be found.
this is an apocalyptic image. It looks like what is the good idea here? That they're all just like driving into a nuclear wasteland? I don't.
It's obviously Linode, Linode.com with the affiliate link below, or possibly the Level
We've
1
already done our
Text
spot for
super
this.
comfortable face mask.
What the Venn diagram of things that have been advertised on Facebook and good ideas. What does that look like? How much crossover is there?
Is that supposed to be a light bulb? I think that's supposed to be it looks like a mushroom cloud in the distance. Good ideas deserve to be found.
Yeah, something's hanging there.
I think it's supposed to be a light bulb. It does not read visually like that where it's in the cityscape.
Don't forget that all of this reads as an existential threat from Facebook. It's hard to have sympathy for Facebook, though, because the whole good ideas deserve to be found presumes that Facebook is able to quickly and accurately and effectively deliver the good ideas to the people that want to see those ideas. But as we've seen in at least 3 or 4 different major cases, they have lied through their teeth about the reach and efficacy of their ads, video ads and video traffic, and their plan. Facebook is basically a dead man walking already.
Well, I think he's got a lot of. He can walk for a long time.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Yeah. The reanimator gel is not showing any signs of letting up.
But yeah, Facebook correctly argues that once people are given the choice, they don't want to be tracked. They're right, but that's their business. They should fail because their business model is flawed.
Yeah.
Will they? Who can say?
Meanwhile,
Twitter also
in the Hall of Justice
also has a terrible business model. They don't make money. They don't make any money at all. In fact, they lose just buckets and buckets of it. So what could they do to make you give them money? You're a big Twitter user.
No.
I can't imagine anybody would want this.
Twitter announces paid super follows to change or to let you charge for your tweets. I don't know. I have a hard time. I mean, I guess Twitter's looking around and they're like, man, we allowed adult content forever, and now there's OnlyFans? Oh, we missed the boat, guys. Come on.
Now, if you wanted to make super follows successful, that would be how you do it. Here's what I would suggest. Now, I don't imagine that anybody would pay to see my tweets, but if I were someone who people would pay to see their tweets, what I would do is I would put out a tweet that's like $2, and everybody that pays that $2, I'd block them immediately.
Oh, what a great perk.
Yeah. We all know that the big tech companies are pretty much everywhere on the internet. And, you know, people have written extensively, especially about Facebook. Like, how far does Facebook follow you? And the answer is you're never safe.
Yeah.
You're at home, in bed, under the covers, you know, with just shuddering and hiding. There's a like button in there somewhere. You don't know where it is, but it's there somewhere.
You can hear the like button breathing from just outside your door. It's like the raspy, like.
So if you were to say, I will not ever look at anything that comes from the domains of the big 4, how much internet could you consume? We have the answer.
This browser extension shows what the internet would look like without big tech. I love this idea. This is an incredible idea. It was a lot of fun to play with this. Unfortunately, I think this might be a false flag operation because this app doesn't really give you context for stuff. So like even when you're on DuckDuckGo, it's like, oh, there's still some stuff here that's from Microsoft and Google. It counts it against you if you just load a font. And we get that every now and then on the Level 1 forum. Some paranoid person wanders in and they're like, Google! And it's like, it's a font. I realize they could probably get your IP address, but it's a font.
But I think what they were trying to point out here was the breadth of the spider web.
Oh, yeah.
And they did successfully do that.
Yeah, but, you know, a font is an order of magnitude less risk than Google Analytics running JavaScript.
But think about this. Let's say you're hardcore, you've got green hair, you really feel strongly about this new wave of stuff. You find out that the AI researchers have been fired. And you say, all right, today, from now on, no more Google in my life. You basically can't.
You basically can't, yeah. That's like no more electricity in my life.
Yeah.
That goes back to the human suffering index. Do we have to allow companies to become as large as Google to lower the net human suffering, or is net human suffering higher because the companies as large as Google are allowed to exist?
I don't think we were necessarily suffering any more in 1994, were we?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I was a child then, so I was much happier.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we were all younger, so maybe that's why we think it was better. But
well, there's big money in taking away all that responsibility. Like, people will pay for that.
Yeah, for sure. But if you are one of those people who is trying your best to stay out of the crosshairs of the big tech companies and not get tracked and not do all of that stuff, Firefox has a new feature that might excite you.
Firefox's Total Cookie Protection aims to stop tracking between multiple sites. The browser's latest release also includes multi-view video option. So, in a nutshell, what this feature does is it torpedoes a lot of the common tactics that like Oracle's Blue Kai uses and tools like Snowplow, where you can run your own instance, and that's kind of like your own private thing for getting data. It torpedoes all of those kinds of approaches, almost all of those kinds of approaches. Adobe's CNAME thing, where you set up your own CNAME, but it's still Adobe servers, which technically gets around the standard, but no, this torpedoes all of it. And this is built right into Firefox. So, expect marketers to have a major shift in their analytics in the next month or two as this rolls out.
But Firefox got such a low market share. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, it is down to 6%. That is unfortunate.
I don't. So what they're doing is every tab is basically its own cookie jar. So there is no crossover, and they protect them from one another. Now, Krista, please explain to me, what is this image?
I have been looking at it too, trying to figure out what it like. It doesn't work not because it doesn't represent anything, but because the shapes are so poorly drawn and the overlaps are so strange.
But what are the shapes supposed to be?
I don't think they're supposed to be anything, but the way they're arranged, it almost makes you think they're supposed to be like a hand, but that's clearly not what it is. So it's like they should have gone more abstract instead of.
And then there's the outline one in the back
Yeah.
with no. This is crazy. Engadget, what were you smoking?
The editor, the normal guy who does all their images, he was out. He was sick for the day, and they're like, you know what? Just put some shapes in there and call it a day.
Yeah.
They could have just used a cookie stock photo.
Maybe he was in
They didn't have
Texas.
to do this.
We should give him the benefit of the
maybe.
doubt. Well, in the security world, actually, we've already moved into the security section. That was a security story. But in the malware world, we often have new forms of malware to tell you about, and usually they come along with some salacious details about what horrible things Russia or China or North Korea or whoever it was is doing with this malware. But in this one, we have no such details because this malware is totally stealth.
New malware found on 30,000 Macs has security pros stumped. With no payload, analysts are struggling to learn what this mature malware does. So it's incredibly sophisticated. It's obviously like a third or fourth generation malware. But it doesn't really have any malicious payload yet. It's just lurking in the background. And it was barely even detected.
Now, it does every day in the morning, a local time, wherever they wrote that article, I guess. It connects to a command and control server. And it says, do you have anything for me? But currently, that command and control server doesn't have anything for it. What are they waiting for?
To get more infections.
Now, they did, it had some placeholder payloads, and they were like, let's check these out. They were both Hello World.
Yeah. One of them was like Hello World, I did it, and the other one was like, you are special and amazing or something like that. It's just like, okay.
How heartwarming, the malware authors giving themselves some props.
Probably being tortured in North Korea. It's like that's the only thing that they can do for, self-affirmation. That's so sad.
Now, that's a piece of malware that's going to be tough for you to avoid because you didn't know about it. No one knew about it. It was a secret, and it got a bunch of people. Other kinds of malware you might know about and yet still be helpless to escape it.
Flash version distributed in China after the end of life of Flash is installing adware. Security researchers say the Chinese Flash app is behaving like adware and opening browser windows to show ads.
Oh,
surprise!
It's lied. Come on, ZDNet. ZDNet, what are you doing here?
This article hasn't even had the traffic for them to bother editing it.
That's not even a real word. That would get the squiggle.
That would get the squiggle.
So yeah, they whoever's distributing this, I don't know if they saw an opportunity here, if somebody else did, but somehow they've put adware on this thing. I mean, if your business depends on Flash at this point anyway,
you deserve
You've had
this.
bigger problems.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, is your security team, have they not all committed suicide already? Or they don't exist? Now, there was a big data leak in Brazil. We talked a little bit about it, but obviously in the U.S. we had bigger headlines at the time because we had nothing but big headlines for the past month or two. But it was a really big leak, and they are trying to get to the bottom of it. And they're not really getting a lot of cooperation from the big companies.
Experian challenged over massive data leak in Brazil. Consumer rights body criticizes explanations from the credit bureau in relation to a data exposure of over 220 million citizens. Yeah, they screwed up. Experian screwed up big time, just like they did here.
Not according to them.
Well,
they said there's no proof that we screwed up. You can't prove it, so we assume that it was one of our customers. Not sure which customer would have how many people. It was like 20 million, 220 million people. Yeah.
This is not a lot
Wow.
different than the result that we got over Equifax either. Like it's basically a consequence free.
Except Equifax did apologize a little bit.
Just a
They
tiny.
knew that they had to in the U.S. I think Experian is depending on Brazil not having the clout to hold them to that fire.
What a dark timeline we live in.
And our last story is the most terrifying. Now, you might be thinking, why'd you put this in security? Well, spend 10 seconds thinking about it.
Yeah.
This is going to be a massive, massive security issue.
Facebook is considering facial recognition for its use in the upcoming smart glasses. Now, do you realize that Google Glass is like 5 years old? And even Google had the foresight to say, let's not put face recognition in Google Glass. Google!
Now, there are some quotes here that I would recommend you read from the internal Facebook discussions that obviously some people are asking the really, really in-your-face questions about security. And the Facebook team right now seems to be just sort of dancing around it.
We've seen this behavior once before. It starts with a C and rhymes with Bainbridge Analytica.
So if a picture of you has ever been uploaded to Facebook, I don't care if you use it or not. If a picture of you has ever been uploaded and anyone has ever tagged you as who you are in that picture, now Facebook knows who you are. And every asshole walking down the street is now tagging your location to Facebook when they look at you.
What an amazing time that we live in. It's like it's like Taylor Swift or whoever was just trying to low-key get some coffee at a Starbucks and everybody's Facebook is like, oh, that's Taylor Swift.
Man.
She's at the Skyline Drive Starbucks. And it's just everybody's automatically tagged and checked in, and then there's a paparazzi event. What if you just look like Taylor Swift? That would be terrible, or maybe a lot of fun.
I'm not a young girl, but I got to think. I mean, Taylor Swift is an attractive lady. I got to think if you look like Taylor Swift, at least you got something going on, right?
Somebody would probably steal your dogs.
That was Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
That was Lady Gaga, yeah.
She's not as attractive as like Taylor Swift.
So it's even more dangerous. Is that what we're saying? I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, we've got 2 more episodes of the news coming up, so don't go anywhere. And now it's time to thank everybody that gave us money, which some people gave us a lot of money, like a lot of money. It was sort of bananas.
Oh, please don't. Please.
Oh, I can't believe this.
I think it was like PR, Captain Planet. So thanks, Captain Planet, says do it, and gave us NT 1500.
Do what?
I think that's
PeerTube.
PeerTube?
Yeah. Johnny Winter from Denmark. Datum Tarek, are you live? What happened 5 minutes ago to the live? Yeah, YouTube, sorry about that. Glad
Technical
you're here.
difficulties from YouTube.
It gave us $5 and says, so glad I didn't panic sell.
Wait, what?
I don't know. It's EMINYBS. Gave us $5.
M&M's?
Diminibs.
And says, so glad I didn't panic sell my 2080 Ti like a schmuck. That was a good move. Nicholas Gonzalez Faraboli, thank you. T.I. Hobo gave us NOK $5. Hippo character's head pops out of water, surprised by his hippo squad.
Oh, mine was an alligator animation. Huh.
Strange. Iceaver gave us €5. Oh, euro. Yeah. I was angry when my ASP increased the internet price from €5.5 to €6.5 with a new contract for 100 megabit up. And
ASP? Does the snake run his internet service?
they're not going to get that. And down for 100 megabit up and an unlimited download plan, high from Lithuania. That is an amazing internet price in Lithuania. Stefan Payne says, I heard that the bomb started flying again. That's probably not good. USS Liberty incident gave us $2.
Oh,
It says,
yeah. The bombs.
Yeah.
Wait, let's not talk about it.
U.S. Liberty incident gave us $2. Is that these low-level drug criminals need to use tails? A Bavarian normie pleb says, I just got my biggest WAP ever today. A Zaxel Wax 650S. Couldn't believe how much flow there can be.
Oh, I thought he was talking about the
blocking
other kind
anything.
of WAP. That would have been a momentous occasion.
LaSalle Rhymes III says, love the show. Have a great weekend. Thank you. Derek Ananas, I'm sorry. And as a loan, gave us $104.20, and it says Diamond
Wow.
Hands. I think we know where your $104 came from. Harry GTT gave us ARS $20. Argentina has or had one in Latonias. Mark Gaming gave us €5.
Wait, had what?
Argentina has or had one in Las Tonias. I don't know what that was in reference to.
Oh, I asked several questions. You're going to have to give us a little more context in your answers.
And the USS Liberty Incident gave us another $5 and says, I think Uncle Theodore, had something to say about the impact of all these technology companies have had on the net amount of human suffering.
Yeah. That's,
Yeah.
I think humanity is not equipped properly to deal with this level of connectivity. Isn't there a psychological thing that they've studied that we have a maximum number of friends
Yeah.
that we can handle?
Yeah. And
But
then,
it's not that high.
and then after that, it's just exhausting. It's just
Yeah.
like, I don't want to deal with people.
Wasn't it like was it even 100? I don't.
No, I
think
don't
it was
even think.
100.
I think it was more like 25 or something.
For me, it's like 4.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you gotta. The further on the spectrum that you move, you chop off more and more of that number.
Bikeomatic says, have a good one. Enjoying the news is more. Victor Villas says, finally caught a live recording. Paco ST says, joining late but still. JW Dickinson says, I hope you have time to take my money, Krista.
I do have time to take your money.
Datum Tarek says, I love you all and hope you keep doing this and tell us how to buy the level 1 mask. Store.level1text.com.
I put
That's
a
in the
link in the chat to the mask.
Hylian Overlord says, thanks for the non-Patreon stream. Oh, you're welcome. We love our patrons too, though. Our patrons are the real MVPs.
Yeah, one of the things we got to figure out is how to give the Patreon people more value when we do stuff like this. We don't have an answer yet. We ask them, and they're not very vocal. The Patreon people, they just like to throw money at us, not really interact with us.
Patreon live question. That was the thing Chris is setting up. So there's going to be a live Q&A for the patrons soon.
Yeah. We haven't done a Q&A, I think, in like a year and a half. It's time for a new one.
We should eventually show it to everybody, but only patrons get to ask questions.
Will we get enough questions though? Because we used to do, like way back when we started, we did monthly Q&As with the patrons, but usually we didn't. I guess we haven't done one long enough. Maybe it would be all right.
For those of you working on timestamps, episode 2 of the news begins now. What do we got covering?
Which is
what time?
47:24.
Krista, paste the OneTab into chat too, please.
Okay.
So this is the business section, which will only be business because it was a very weird delineation of topics this week.
I noticed that you didn't put anything in about the launch of the 3060 video card. Was that to deliberately crap on the availability?
Yeah, because we did the 3060 last week, and
the TI.
It doesn't matter what that card can do because you can't get one.
Burn.
But I mean, it's basically what percentage does it boost over 3060?
No, it's the 3060 Ti came out first, and now it's the regular 3060, which is supposed to be the everyman card because
they both have the crypto thing.
So. No, the 3060 Ti does not have the crypto thing, but the 3060 does.
Well, there you go.
But the 3060 crypto performance still isn't bad.
Yeah, it's a middle of the road card, not very exciting, and maybe it's good if you're not a miner, maybe it's not.
Yeah.
So go get one. Oh wait. Now, one thing that you can get right now, but you might want to wait on, is the old M1 Mac. Am I saying that because it's poor performance? No. Am I saying that because the x86 compatibility is not there yet? No, that's not why. It's yet another reason, which is very mysterious.
The Mac Mini, the M1, Mac users report excessive SSD wear. They got a pic of the Mac Mini, but this is actually affecting other stuff. It's definitely the numbers don't look good.
It's you have a lifetime of writes on your SSDs, and after that amount of writes, it'll still work, but it's not guaranteed, and you got to really think about replacing it at that point. So you think if you buy a Mac, you pay a lot of money for it, you want to keep it at least 4 or 5 years, right? Even if you buy a new computer, that Mac is still going to be useful 6-7 years down the road. But not the SSD.
Yeah, it seems to be, from this tweet, it seems like it's 1% worn out already.
I think one guy in an extreme situation was already at 10%.
Yeah. This might be something as simple as Apple swapping too much. Like the swappiness could be wrong. This could also just be misreported numbers. I think this is probably misreported numbers because most of these devices have 8 or 16 gigabytes of memory, but it could also be that Apple's just doing something dumb.
Also affects the Intel Max, not just the M1 Max. So it doesn't seem like it's processor related. So that's bad. That's expensive to replace a SSD every 6 months, and annoying for sure. But that is not the biggest problem that Apple has right now. Of course, Apple's biggest problem is the fact that everyone thinks that they are should become an antitrust situation. They're too big. The App Store is too much control. They're getting all this scrutiny. Tim Cook once again has taken the stage to explain to you plebs why you don't know what you're talking about.
Apple's Tim Cook discusses mergers and acquisitions. It turns out that they've bought 100 companies, but Apple's so secretive. You've never heard of them. You don't know what they're doing. Probably they're looking at App Store app sales and just being like, hey, do this. I knew a guy that had an app, and it was like him and 2 other people, and Apple was like, we're interested in acquiring this. And I don't think it ever happened, but he was just like, this is interesting for the app that he was doing.
And he spoke about the antitrust stuff, and he again holds the line that Apple does not lead the market in anything that they sell. And he believes that as long as that's true, they cannot be a monopoly. They cannot be an antitrust situation.
Again, human suffering and misery. What's the scale?
Yeah. Now, when it comes to App Store purchases, are they the leader?
Yeah.
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah. Wonder how much more they have than the Play Store.
The Play Store is just a dumpster fire of malware. Like, the Play Store is so bad that...
Well, that's his argument. He does have a point about that.
Yeah.
Well, if we wanted to get some real numbers to compare Google's App Store revenue to Apple's App Store revenue, we might have to get some subpoenas out there.
This blew my mind. I couldn't believe this.
Because if you get a judge who doesn't really understand what's going on and you just throw out a bunch of subpoenas, you might just pull in the big fish, which it seems like that is what Apple's done here.
Valve has to provide. They have to provide some Steam sales data to Apple, the judge has said. Now, we reported on this last week where Valve was pushing back against Apple. This is Apple versus Epic. Valve does not have a dog in this fight. And the judge says...
Why would you make an enemy like this?
Well, the judge has a very simplistic view. He says, well, the same game is available on both Apple, the Apple platform, and the Steam platform. And therefore, there's some kind of relation here. But I don't think that's really a totally accurate way to look at it. So that's the data that Valve is going to have to provide, is just basic sales data for 36 titles that were available on both platforms.
But Valve does not sell mobile games.
No, just desktop. It's the Epic Game Store.
Not even
thing.
comparable.
Yeah.
There's no apples to apples here. And
see what we did there? That's worth at least $5.
But the judge was just like, I got to see it. So now, and Valve, they said, hey, it's going to take hours and hours for my employees to put together this report. This is undue burden. And the judge was like, no, it's not. Do it.
I just, what? That was my reaction when I read this headline earlier.
Yeah. You know, Krista, that's a lot of people's reactions to the American legal system when it sets its sights on them.
It's like, I can't believe how dysfunctional this is. Yeah. There's several. The one in the nonsense about the prosecutors lying their teeth off. Oh, foreshadowing.
That's fantastic. Like, how are those people just not put to death?
Yeah.
We have the evidence. We'll cover that later. For now, let's talk about Google. And Google, one of their big things that they have going on right now are these internal revolts. The people are unhappy with the fact that all of a sudden they're like, hey, wait a minute. This company's evil.
You're oversimplifying a bit, but yes.
I've been looking at this AI research, and we're doing some really nasty stuff. And they said some nasty things about it in their reviews. And then a couple of lawyers came behind them, and they're like, let's just wipe that out. Let's use a different word. Let's use a nicer word. And more, the internal employees seem to be unhappy with that.
Exclusive. Google pledges changes to research oversight after internal revote. So this was after the firing of Gabru and the one that we talked about last week. AI, I mean, I don't believe that either one of those people have totally clean hands. And they're going to latch onto this and say, see, some of the stuff that we asked of Google that resulted in our firing, Google is now doing, therefore we are correct. But neither one of those things is correct. Both Google and the researchers, I don't think either one of them behaved to the highest possible ethics standards in this situation. And it's hard to do when you're involved in it.
I gotta say though, after looking at what the lawyers changed, I'm a little bit more on the side of the woke people.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but they pointed out a lot of these changes that were made really, really changed the meaning of what was written.
Yes.
So they took a lot of words that were negative because they were like, hey, this AI is going to have negative effects on these groups of people. And the lawyers went behind them and they changed those words to very neutral words.
My takeaway from it was a little bit more nuanced than that, but it might have been because I had just read the jail algorithm story. And so like the jail algorithm story we were talking about a little while ago, the AI researchers seem to be, to me, in what the lawyers were changing, pointing out situations like that where if we have this ruled by AI or these are the only data sets we have available for training this, it is going to result in this result where, some minority is marginalized when they're released from prison or blah, blah, blah. And we have to do a better job than this because people are building their products on our products. Look at like Google Maps and Google Analytics and the Google Compute Project. And when we offer our libraries and tools, for speech recognition and TensorFlow as like an AI tool, when we offer our tools and pre-trained neural nets up to be able to do X, Y, Z, and people build on them, they don't necessarily understand the darker aspects of what they're building with those tools. And that, like Google wanting to silence that, if it's what it was, to me is far darker than anything else that they've talked about, like the actual subject matter.
I don't think they thought about that far. I think they just saw a negative and, it was the Google lawyers. So like, for the love of God, we can't say negative things about ourselves. Get that out of there. So the new system is supposed to, defeat all of that. There's more of a review process. If you're a researcher in the ethics department, then you get more visibility on what the lawyers are doing. You get less meddling, and you're going to have to try to arbitrate all this stuff. It's who knows if it'll work, but they're going to try to do something at least.
Google.
No word on those people coming back.
Did you toggle the story for the headline? Is it time?
I'm still talking about the last story.
It goes together because the privacy.
Well, it's not. So the other thing that Google is constantly battling with is just like Facebook, they're falling afoul of these Apple privacy nutrition labels. And they go for a month?
Yeah, over a month.
Yeah, over a month, they were like, nah, you're not going to get it. YouTube was the only one that got the update. Well, now there's a number 2.
Google has finally added app privacy labels to the Gmail app, and so data linked to you, location, identifier. It's bad. There's 2 columns of things that are being used.
But we already knew this about Gmail.
We did, but how bad was it before? Like that, it took them 2 months to do this. What was it doing before? I mean, think about that. It took them 2 months to get it to this state. So, what on earth were they doing?
So expect more of those in the weeks to come, and they'll all be terrifying. And I'm sure a lot of people will opt out of that when they try to install those apps. On the, Apple, their big argument that they're always going to fall back to is security. We do this because we love you and we want to keep you safe. We lock you down and we take 30% of your money because we love you. Just like you guys donating to us.
Store.level1text.com.
We let you give us money because we love you so much.
Linode.com/level1text.
Meanwhile, on the other side of the fence, you have Google's way of dealing with it, which is there is no fence. Just do whatever you want. There's raping and killing and people burning at the stake, and Google's like, this seems fine. This seems okay.
Weeping and gnashing of teeth.
And it's not just their app store where they have that whole mentality. Also, the update system.
Yeah.
They're just not really worried about it too much.
Samsung now updates Android for longer than Google does. Galaxy devices going back to 2019 are now getting 4 years of security updates. I really think the current global situation has a lot to do with this, but yeah, basically Google is like, let's write off that hardware.
You mean people hanging onto their phones more than they used to?
Yeah. So it makes sense. Samsung didn't really have great sales numbers for the S20. And remember, like the S9 and the S9 Plus, those were record-breaking devices for Samsung sales. And like the S10, and then it's like, the S20. No one cared.
Was it 3 or 4 years? I think it was 3 years you get monthly updates, and then on the 4th year you go to quarterly.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the 5th year, you're out.
Yep.
Obviously, we were talking earlier about the 3060, and everybody is feeling this. If you've gone on eBay to look at video card prices, and you might be thinking, wow, NVIDIA can't make enough video cards. So they must be losing money, right? Because if they can't make them to sell them, how are they making money? Well, there's 2 ways to make money generally in that area. You can do it on volume, or you can do it on margin. Guess which one they did?
NVIDIA made $5 billion during a GPU shortage and expects to do it again in Q1. It hasn't changed its outlook on GPU availability. What's Bitcoin at?
Actually, what is it at today?
It's below 50 again.
Yeah, it's like 45. It's not like 60 like it was there for a little while.
That's 47.
Nice.
Well, that's why your video card prices, that's the $5 billion, half of that's probably in cryptocurrency.
So they are obviously, they give the lip service. It's like, the shortage, we got to do something about it. But meanwhile, they're making more money. That was a record, by the way. They've never made that much money before in a quarter.
I can't wait for the update at the bottom. It's like, update. Most of this profit came from diamond handsing GameStop. No, they didn't do that.
So, just hang on to whatever video card you got. And
hope for the best.
Yeah. But if instead of playing video games, you decide to hoard 4K video and just spend your time doing that instead, there's also an exciting new product for you.
Toshiba has unveiled the world's first FC MAMR hard drive. 18 terabytes and helium filled. So 9 platters in a 3.5-inch hard drive. 9 platters. This is incredible. And MAMR, that is microwave assisted magnetic recording.
I think we've already used the news title, "Thanks for the Memories."
We have, but in a different context.
No, it was.
Oh, was it magnetic?
Same, yeah.
18 terabytes. Now we are currently in the process of upgrading the level 1 storage server because we're out of space to 8 terabyte hard drives from 2 terabyte hard drives, which sounds like a modest upgrade, but when we're talking about 48 hard drives, it's kind of a lot of space, kind of a big jump.
Yeah, and that one's probably more than most of you need, but it's cool that it exists.
Yeah. Well, our storage is about full, so we needed to upgrade, and they're also helium filled, which is nice because they're quieter and they run cooler.
Yeah, and they're supposed to be much more shock absorbing and able to be stacked in giant data center arrays and not vibrate each other to death. So that's good. Now, when it comes to those of you who, for a variety of reasons, have decided to flee the city centers and wherever you live and run into the rural area to get away from the madness,
You've discovered that we don't have any internet.
Yeah, but the news is good because this just keeps getting better. And so far, he hasn't disappointed us. So far.
Musk says that Starlink will hit 300 megabit and expand to, quote unquote, most of Earth this year. So one of our local people is on the list for Starlink. They should be getting their stuff any day now.
Well, here's the most interesting thing about this article. He said, and I'm not sure how they're going to enforce this, but he says there will be a limit to who can get Starlink. They will not, because you remember how, was it Pi who was saying it's going to get too congested? Well, Musk is saying no, because we're not going to sell it to that many people. And the number of people they sell it to in city centers is going to be less than outlying areas.
That makes sense.
I guess that's just going to be based on the billing address.
Probably. So, population density and billing address.
How close are you to a Walmart?
So that's
the dark timeline version of that is that they're not willing to do collusion, like like other ISPs. You know how AT&T and Spectrum seem to like work together on pricing and stuff. The dark timeline view is that, well, SpaceX is going to be the same way.
Well, I assume
Starlink.
He probably assumes, and I think he's right, that the ISPs won't touch him. He's the enemy, the biggest enemy, in fact.
Yeah.
So I don't blame him for, anticipating nothing but aggression from them. I mean, they've already, remember that they were the ones trying to float that whole congestion thing.
Oh, yeah.
So, anyway, that's cool. The people that need it will hopefully get it, and it will be, and also they're going to lower the latency, he says. And as more satellites go up, more people get to sign up for the program. So, if you're excited about that, you probably want to sign up now.
What does it cost? Oh, sorry.
It's like $100 a month plus the cost of the gear. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And you get gigabit.
$500 for the gear.
Yeah. So it's pretty pricey to get started, but still, if you've got no other option, I'm sure a lot of people are happy to pay it. And the speeds are going to go up to 300 megabits.
It's not that right now, but yeah.
So that's...
Well, rural internet here is not any better than 6 or 12 megabit currently, so...
Well, I'm paying the best stuff I can get over cable is 200 right now, or 250. So...
Lulz.
Yeah. I would increase my speed by 50%, and that's non-trivial. Now, I have a pair of HyperX headphones, and the microphone stopped working almost immediately. But in terms of headphones, in terms of like gaming at work headphones, I've had no complaints.
Less than $100?
Yeah, I think it was maybe less than 60.
Yeah, I think they were 55 or 49.
So I think that's a pretty decent little brand. Will it remain a pretty decent little brand?
HP is buying a gaming accessory brand HyperX for $425 million. I too have been pretty impressed with HyperX products for their value, for what they are, in general. So it'll be interesting to see how this complements HP's gaming portfolio. I really think HP, with some of their gaming stuff, they've done well, and other stuff has left me scratching my head like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Now, this was a West Coast thing, right?
Yes.
Have you ever been to one?
Yes.
I've never been to one, but they were one of the few places, at least, in the modern era, where you could still go and buy PC parts, not pre-built PCs, but PC parts. And F's in the chat.
Confirmed. Fry's Electronics is going out of business and shutting down all stores. Former king of build-your-own PC retailers couldn't survive in the pandemic or the shift to consignment. Consignment's really what killed them. They wanted their suppliers to basically stock their stores for them, but not actually pay their suppliers until stuff sold. And the margins on computer products is not really super high. I mean, you look at like Intel's...
Unless you're NVIDIA.
Yeah, I mean, well... I mean, historically, the margin on like $1,000 microprocessor has been on the order of like $100, unless you were selling a server, or then the margins are a lot better there. But historically, the margins on that stuff have not been great. So I wonder if Micro Center is celebrating this. I wonder if Micro Center is suffering just as much.
I think Micro Center
would be scared right now.
Yeah, they probably see their future.
I hope not.
There was a Fry's up in like Indianapolis that I used to go to, but whenever I went there, I just bought CDs, and that's been years and years ago.
Yeah, the last time I was in Fry's was probably about 2 or 3 years ago, and I remember thinking they're not going to make it.
Well, they explain in the story that it seems like the decision to shut everything down was not holistic. Maybe just like somebody at the top was like, do it, but then it didn't trickle down correctly. So there were still people sitting in the stores with empty shelves, like employees, just sort of twiddling their thumbs. And you could order online right up until the moment.
Wow.
But they probably aren't going to honor any of those orders.
Yeah. Probably
and
not.
If you need a return, ooh.
Yeah. They did, in their memo, they did have some stuff in there that was like, call this number, and like, call this other number if you need us to return the equipment that we have. Call this number.
That's going to take you straight to an Indian call center, and you're never going to get that resolved.
It is kind of a dark timeline, though.
The chat's got lots of like sad ghost stories about Fry's.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure a lot of people have, childhood memories of going and buying their voodoo card. Oh, God.
Yeah, the first time I went in a store like that, it was just like, this is magical.
Yeah. Now, this story, the headline is not the reason I put this in here. The actual reason I put this in here is the third paragraph, because I think this might affect me.
Square Inc. announces fourth quarter and full year 2020 results. Square also announced 170 million purchase in Bitcoin, which is the thing that caught my attention, as part of its ongoing commitment to the cryptocurrency whatever.
170 million, that's 3,000 and change Bitcoins. Previously, they had only invested 50 million. So they're big believers in Bitcoin.
After Tesla and everything else. And that's why it was 60K. Everybody was buying at once.
Well, yeah, all the institutional people are getting FOMO'd. For once, it's them that's getting FOMO'd. And they're, the prices has to increase.
Between that and GameStop, I mean, lol.
I don't know. I hesitated to cut these because we had so few stories. I imagine most of you don't care, but I'm kind of excited about the next one. I really don't care much about this one. But Spotify making big moves. They seem to have stumbled a bit with the Joe Rogan move.
Yeah.
I think that was a mistake. And now they're like, what else can we do?
Spotify expands to 80 new something and,
markets. 80
new markets and 1 point something billion new listeners.
So India, I think, is one of the big ones, obviously.
Yep.
And there are a couple other Asian markets and stuff like that. They're expanding rapidly. And here in the good old US of A, where we have existing customers, they have a new product for us.
Spotify Hi-Fi is a lossless streaming tier coming later this year. Your turn, Apple Music. I remember mocking lossless streaming at least 3 or 4 times, even before Tidal. And then Tidal came out as like Jay-Z's lossless thing, who, like Facebook, also lied through their teeth about how well they were doing.
Neil Young came out with an MP3 player that was built on lossless. And nothing went with that either. People didn't adopt that.
Well, these Spotify people didn't get the memo.
But I might check this out. Now, the big question here that The Verge didn't answer is how much it's going to cost. Because I might pay an extra $5 for lossless.
More than you would like.
I'm not going to double my... If my total bill is going to go beyond 20, I probably won't do this. I do often talk about, because I've got the planar headphones. And the big question of, can you tell the difference between 320 and lossless?
No.
Maybe, but it's not enough. Like, if the answer is maybe, do you want to spend $10 a month on that?
No. I want to do experiments to figure this out, but my problem is that I can't really tell a lot of difference between music at the gravel in a tin can quality versus normal. So
it is tough. Yeah. I've definitely had a lot of conversations with people about yeah, these headphones are great, but can you really tell? And now between a 192 and a 320, I can tell easily. I think Spotify currently runs at 320. So, I don't know. Weigh in on that, I suppose. Amazon, you know what? I always I noticed something interesting about Amazon Prime Video. If you dig deep enough into Amazon Prime Video, you will get into the weirdest, low budget, locally produced trash content that you've ever seen. And it's
yeah,
how did this get in here? I was not previously aware that they used to have a policy where it's just whatever, submit whatever you want. We're not going to look at it, but we'll show it to people. And maybe they're rethinking that.
Amazon Prime, Video Direct, and the dystopian decision to stop accepting documentaries. That's not all they did. They didn't just stop accepting documentaries. They jettisoned the existing ones from the platform. They're just the algorithm says we don't do this anymore, so we're not doing it. And everybody's like, can I get some kind of an explanation? I was like, no, pleb, the algorithm has made its decision. Find something else to do. Go work at a Starbucks or something.
But not just that. They had the weird stuff like slideshows. They had slideshows to music on Amazon Prime Video. I don't know how you find those. I've never seen them on there, but they existed. Not anymore.
Is it like someone's family vacation just available on Amazon Prime?
I think it's similar to because there's YouTube channels that are like that where they just cover pets and stuff. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
I think it was that kind of content. But anyway, not anymore. I have to assume that the problem here is some of those documentaries were very political, right? And they covered sensitive topics.
Yeah, but I mean, some of those documentaries were probably like Werner Herzog, and it's like, why did you get rid of those? Those are good.
What about a 9/11 documentary?
Oh yeah, it's got if Werner Herzog's 9/11 documentary. The universe would explode.
Yeah, well, I'm saying, stuff like that. And then they started getting the anti-Trump documentaries.
Ooh,
That's going to anger some people. So I think they just don't want because they don't screen them, they're afraid of what might get in there.
documentaries out. Puppets making crank phone calls. That's it.
That hasn't been in since the late 90s.
But that would be accepted under this policy. That's the benchmark.
And what a terrible final story. I should have had a better final story.
Nah, it's fine. There's not really a lot to this story. This is the most nothing burger story of the week.
Yeah, it's completely uninteresting.
Verizon leads 5G airwave bidding with a record $45 billion splurge. I think this is a prediction that your wireless bill is about to get a lot more expensive because $5 billion is a lot, or $45 billion is a lot to pay for a relatively small slice of what can be used in the 5G spectrum. This is the long haul part of the spectrum, or I get not really. Is it the long haul?
It's these parts are good at volume and distance.
Okay.
It's like a juicy part of the spectrum. So they want it for places like Africa, where it's spotty towers. So it's easier to shoot across those long distances and cover a big low density area.
Yeah, your wireless bill's definitely going up.
Yeah, because that $45 billion is debt. They didn't have $45 billion. Who are they? Jeff Bezos?
That's just pocket change to Jeff. It's just not even like. That's just not even a little bit. All right, I've got a bunch of people to thank.
Yeah, we've got a lot of donations. I think usually it seems like when we do live streams, it's like people don't donate a whole lot in the first episode, and then when they realize their donations get read at the end, suddenly we get a lot more.
It's just it just turns into a flood of something. Optin gave us €4.2, 420. Nice something to listen to while working. Naoko Nemo gave us 200 rubles. Thank you. Nice to know you're keeping tabs on. It says full simp mode on. Samuel Owens gave us $5. No comment. The comment was, been watching your shows for years, and I have a developer job that I can afford to give back from time to time. Well, congratulations on your continued employment during this uncertain time. Datum Tarek gave us €5. Krista, where is the level 1 mask link?
I have posted it, so he should have it now.
Weeb gave us 99 cents with a peach emoji. Dark Tatum gave us another €5 and says, are you guys going to ship stuff from your store to Euro as well? We do. The shipping price is not great. We do a coupon once a year for Euro people, and you just missed it.
We've been trying.
Yeah, we do it at Christmas time.
We've been trying to think of a better way to deal with that. And aside from having a warehouse somewhere over there, I don't think it's feasible to get realistic prices.
Yeah.
It's another thing Zerial Strauss volunteers for. I don't think so. Perry Sykes gave us $5 and says, love to see the review of how well the latest AMD CPUs handle virtualization to include nested. Nested is a new angle. There's some of that content on the level 1 Linux channel. Waco Malt gave us $5. Thank you. It says that joke was worth $4, but here's an extra. Oh, thank you. Coleman Rue.
Which joke was it?
It was the
apples to apples.
Apples to apples, yeah.
No, that's not even worth 99 cents.
Doo says, love you guys, $10. Stir Ferguson says, I have an EVGA water cooled 2070 Super and a 3060 Ti. Okay, you should not ask this kind of thing during the news. You should keep the 3060 Ti and get rid of the 2070 Super.
Wendell secretly loves it.
I mean, honestly, the 2070 Super, if you overclock it a little bit, is fine. I initially read that as a 2060, and it was just like, oh yeah, 2060. Maybe the 2070, I don't know. It depends on the RTX titles, I guess. Adam Tarek gave us €5. It says, Krista, you need to change the copyright at the store to 2021. Jan Martin de Boer gave us €1337, 13.37. Store.level1text.com. Andrew Cruz gave us Canadian $5. It says, helium has a tendency to diffuse through the seals. Doesn't happen in hard drives. Possible. Level 1 deep dive, possibly. That is a thing that happens with helium-filled hard drives, but it's supposed to... They have a design lifetime for that of like 10 years, so we'll see. Louis Calderia gave us £20 sterling. Thank you. Feels very, very awesome. Asked Side Tony gave us $10. It says At Crypto Graffiti has 10K worth of Bitcoin hidden on a billboard. The billboards are part of the BTC versus Fed grassroots campaign. So that's interesting, I guess.
So is that QR?
I think it's just hidden on a billboard somewhere.
Yeah, but how is it hidden? Is it QR code? Then if you find it, you can claim them?
You have to look at it and cross your eyes,
Don't
and
you
then
need
if
the
you stare at it
wallet?
long enough.
Well, it might be the key for a wallet, like the private key in a wallet that already has crypto assigned to it. Because the first one to get the private key and move it somewhere else wins.
Interesting.
Lolubrick gave us $5 and said, shout out to all the L1T Minecraft peeps. Yeah, see, that's good. Cajoling Technologies gave us $3 and says, you all are awesome. Level 1 news for the win. We just got
Thank you.
John Gogo says, Wendell on LTT and Gamers Nexus got me hooked on your channel. Here's something from a grateful thank you for him to mention my name. Aw, well, thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get a jacket because it's really cold in here, and yeah, I'm chilly. Chat.
Yeah, the Gamers Nexus and Linus Tech Tips, they've become the real pros. We're just the bozos talking, it's an interesting role reversal. All right, I think that's everybody. All right, are you ready we got to wait on Krista for episode 3, so.
She should have gone with the beginning of the donation. How dare she?
And my mom's cat is sick, so I have to go deal with that after the news.
What's wrong with it?
I don't know. It's been kind of down for a little while.
How old is that cat?
18 years old.
That's an outdoor 18?
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You going to get another one when it dies?
I probably have to avoid the suicidal depression.
I come back to just suicidal depression. Same.
The cat's sick.
Wait, your cat or
No, his mom's
Oh no.
cat. Unfortunate.
Yeah.
And it is annoying to go to the vet right now.
Yeah, you have to wait outside in your car. I had to do that for all the Roost boosters this summer.
All right, we all caught up?
Yep.
Good to go?
We're caught up. I got the tabs up. I got a jacket, so I won't be shivering the whole time.
So we're moving into robot, and then the nonsense section, which is Krista's favorite.
It is my favorite.
And this week's nonsense, not a lot of tech-related stuff, so I just start throwing stuff in there. That's all I like to do. First off, now we talked about the Perseverance last week, but this week, this came out, I guess, Monday, we got a bunch of new footage and even some audio recordings, and you should check them out because this was an amazing feat of engineering.
NASA's Mars Perseverance rover provides front row seat to landing first audio recording of the Red Planet. So this is everything that you need to do all of that, and it truly is. It's incredible. I'm glad this didn't blow up or nothing bad happened. You should all go play with this. The website will probably go offline from the amount of traffic. It is a lot of fun to live vicariously through a robot on another planet, which, by the way, is running Linux.
And
Throwing that out there.
yeah, it's nice. I especially like it when America did it and we can dunk on everybody else.
Woo! USA! USA!
Now this story,
We needed a win.
I read this and I immediately thought to myself, this is never going to work. But then in the story, they said, some people will say this is never going to work, but it is. But I'm here to tell you, it's not. Not going to work.
Researchers propose ethically correct AI for smart guns that lock out mass shooters. So these are definitely not going to be fitted on armed forces guns.
So one of the things they point out here, and they don't get into the nuts and bolts of exactly how this is going to work, but they explain in some ways your gun, of course your gun is going to be smart connected and it's going to always know situationally where it is, what's going on. It's probably going to be connected to Bluetooth to all the phones around you or whatever. And they explain that if you were in a Walmart parking lot, I guess there was a mass shooting in a Walmart parking lot. I don't remember where that was. It would know, based on a variety of factors, including the fact that you were in a Walmart parking lot, that you should not be shooting that many times. But what if I'm being accosted in a Walmart parking lot?
What if you're storming the Capitol?
I was like, what? Oh, here's another scenario that's maybe more likely. What if your neighborhood gun range is near a Walmart?
I don't think anybody would get the the necessary paperwork to build a gun range anywhere near a Walmart. Because if you could hear the shots from the Walmart would destroy you. They don't want that.
I've been to a gun range in an urban area before. You couldn't hear it from outside, though.
Yeah,
so
that's double wall stuff.
Oh, you know,
Yeah.
I didn't think about it until you guys were talking about it, but like thinking about like the range, and if this was, you know, mandatory built into guns, like some of the people at the range, like if the range warden, you know, hits the button and nobody can shoot, some of those people would just beat the crap out of the range warden because they're so unhinged.
There was a story this week. I didn't include it, but because, you know, it's nothing to do with technology. There was a guy who, it was an old couple. I think they were like in their 80s. But this guy was an ex-Marine or something. He was, you know, a military guy. And some guy was beating his 80-year-old wife. And so, you know, the headline kind of gets you. It's like, oh, he grabbed the shotgun from above the fireplace. But it was a decorative shotgun, so he just beat the guy to death with it.
A decorative shotgun. That's on trend for 2021.
But yeah, there would be a lot of ways. And like what Crystal was talking about, there's going to be, it's like, oh, there's a riot in Chicago tonight. Turn off all the guns.
Yeah.
But here's the thing about it.
Yeah.
This is not going to stop gun deaths because, you know, the people who buy a gun like this and let it have these kinds of systems on it are not the kind of people who shoot up Walmart parking lots.
Yeah.
And in fact, the kind of people who shoot up Walmart parking lots are a infinitesimal percentage of the shooters. Most of the shooters are in Chicago and Los Angeles, and they ain't going to buy these guns.
I don't think it would be a really big deal. I think we can make all guns like this without a lot of work by just making the ammo do this, because it would be really easy to make the little cap on the end of the bullet not work, like to turn that into a piece of electronics, and if there's a certain radio signal present, it just doesn't do anything.
The primer?
Yeah.
So you want every primer to cost 25 cents from now on?
No, the government would probably subsidize it at that point. It's
Oh
like you
my
can
God.
only use this one primer. And
That's
so
ridiculous.
all of our, you know,
That idea is more ridiculous than the idea.
but it is more implementable.
No, because it's way easier for me to make ammo than it is for me to make.
Yes, you could absolutely make your own primer.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I can make my own primer, but somebody else sell me one. That's chat. If you guys know about, you know, like how that whole thing works, how feasible is it to make your own primers? Because I know back in the day, the primers were insanely corrosive. I don't think you can make those yourself easily. Anyway, we're talking about robots, not guns. And a lot of you might have this robot in your home, and unfortunately this week, it behaved a little weirdly.
iRobot says it'll be a few weeks until it can clean up. I see what you did there, article author. Its latest Roomba software update mess. So they deployed a software update. It broke some functionality, created some bugs. The Roomba is not cleaning as effectively as it used to, hence the need to clean up the firmware. No one cared.
Not much more about that.
Yeah.
It's just,
Does anyone have a Roomba in chat?
I do have a Roomba.
You have I didn't know you had a Roomba.
Mm.
I think you told me that, and you said it was not good at picking up cat hair.
It's good at picking up a certain amount of cat hair. It's not good at picking up the amount of cat hair that comes off my cats.
Yeah.
You'd have to run it probably like twice a day to stay on top of that. But they are heavy shedders. It's
Well, they're cats.
It's kind of a nightmare. This is a kind of a ridiculous thing, and it's over now. But I feel like
this was his plan B.
But this was a bait and switch.
Yeah,
because that money was donated, right?
it was.
So you gave your money toward one cause, and then he just shunted it off to an entirely different cause, and that's not cool.
Anthony Lewandowski closes his Church of AI, the Way of the Future's funds donated to the NAACP. I don't think this was his intention. I think that he didn't want to keep the money, but also didn't want to, you know, he's like, how do I get rid of this money? I was like, all right.
Oh, his statement said that in the light of recent events, he felt like they needed it more than he did.
Yeah, well, I think that he thought that his legal troubles were going to go a different way, and this was his backup plan.
Meanwhile, he got like $100,000.
Yeah.
We're starting a church. Level 1 church. You're all going to join.
Everything, all of your actions must be toward reducing human suffering and misery.
And it's only going to cost you $250 to get in. Not $2.50, $250.
It's 250.
Store.level1text.com.
Well, that's how you get your indulgences. So let's say that you want to use Facebook, right? Now that's against the doctrine of the church. You're not allowed to use Facebook. But you go to store.level1text.com.
You can buy some Facebook indulgences.
You get yourself a Facebook token. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's good for
Yeah, tokens. They have to, they're like little plastic chips.
it's good for 72 hours. This is kind of more along the gun argument. Some people are so gun crazy and gun fearing that a fun little project becomes a major argument because there's a gun, even though it's not really a gun.
Boston Dynamics condemns the robot paintball rampage plan. And we probably wouldn't have heard of this project if Boston Dynamics didn't condemn it and basically like freak out. So it's a Boston Dynamics robot with a paintball gun mounted on the back, and it's set up in a warehouse that is like a mock art gallery. And you can go on the web, and for 2 minutes, you can get control of the Spot robot, look around, and shoot stuff. And, you know about how that's going to go when you've got anonymous people in control of a paintball gun on the internet.
But it's completely random who gets it. So you have to be watching to be in the running, and then every 2 minutes, a new person gets the range. So you might never get to play with a Spot. You might only get to watch, but you might get to.
Boston Dynamics said that doing this kind of a project with their robot was against the terms of service for their software stack. They probably actually do have a legal case there. But they also offered the team doing this 2 more Spot robots if they would just please take the paintball gun off the robot.
But they also said that if they did not do that, they might not update their robot anymore.
Yeah.
You don't really own the robot.
Yeah, that's true, right? Well, I mean, you own it, but you can't get security updates and stuff like that and get new features. So
This is like that time that Robin Williams' character in Bicentennial Man went sentient, and when he went back to the robot factory, they were like, "Oh no, if you wanted to get some repairs, we're gonna have to wipe his memory." And they were like, "Well, we can't do that."
it's exactly like that.
You pay $75K and you don't actually own the robot.
Actually, I think in order to do the paintball thing, they probably got some of the upgrades. They probably paid more than 75.
Way more.
Trade you a Tesla for the Spot robot. I mean, that's just sort of where we are at this point.
Well, that's where we are, but the people of Japan are in a different place because, as usual, everybody's been brought down by the pandemic, but Japan, they always have a novel way of approaching it, and their novel ways of approaching things often include robots.
Hi, robot. Japan's Android pets ease of virus isolation. These models range from $800 to like $2,800 US.
I think $3,500 for the best one.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's expensive. But they interviewed a girl here who hers sings to her, and she said that she feels less lonely because she has a robot companion because, the current global situation.
And these are all basically Alexas, cloud connected type of deal, but much more animated and cuter, as often things in Japan are. And people seem to love them. They are selling out. They also, if you can't, deal with that big price tag, they have some cafes where you can go and interact with these little guys.
I really feel like that we could introduce these lonely people. Can we have like a octogenarian version of like chat roulette where you're sure that nothing horrible is going to happen? Because I feel like chat roulette with elderly people where wholesome things are happening would be way better than talking to robots.
But I think you're assuming something that a lot of people assume, which is not true, and which, as I get older and older, I realize more and more, is that this whole idea that once you get old, you're wise and peaceful and stuff like that is absolutely not true.
Yeah.
There's going to be creepy old dudes the same as there's creepy young dudes.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, why can't the lonely people that are wholesome be lonely together? Like, how is it that technology fails us in this way?
Well, the best story about that is the Maytag story. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Like, they did a good job. If we could do something like that, I think one of the important parts about it, one of the things that Maytag got right, is they don't necessarily need to know that it's happening.
Yeah.
They need to think that someone's just hanging out with them.
Yeah.
So, well. This story is just, it's such a great headline. And of course, immediately you start rolling off in your mind all of the arguments against it because they're nearly infinite.
Yeah.
But just enjoy it for the fun laugh that it is.
Chicago sees a spike in carjackings, prompting a call to ban Grand Theft Auto. I looked into this. This politician is not this much of a moron. This is totally a subterfuge campaign. The crime is out of control. The carjackings legit are out of control in Chicago. So this is a very clever ploy to turn the conversation into how much of an idiot the politicians are versus actually fixing the carjacking problem in the first place.
Everything about Chicago is pretending the problem isn't what the problem is.
Yes. Oh, you're talking about the gun control thing too, aren't you?
The people are poor and desperate.
Yeah.
Maybe we should try to do something about that. No, let's talk about video games instead.
It's obviously Grand Theft Auto. Obviously.
Yeah. So, yeah, we do need to fix Chicago.
This politician is not this stupid. He is not this ignorant. This is deliberately just something to get people riled up.
No, he's not stupid. He is evil.
Yes.
Yeah. It's hard to say which is worse in a politician. And you know what? I think that's the big argument. Ultimately, if we boil it down, and this is going to be controversial, but the big argument in the country right now is the people who thought Donald Trump was evil versus the people who thought Donald Trump was stupid. I personally think he's just stupid.
What is it? Never attribute to malice what could be attributed to stupidity.
Dear international viewer, apologies for the current and former U.S. government and their function or lack thereof. Sincerely, some internet bozos.
But one thing is for sure, we will probably never really see the truth. And as time goes by, we lose more and more of it to revision. And that's what Disney Plus is up to with their free time.
18 episodes of The Muppet Show have content disclaimers on Disney Plus. I saw the headline. My first thought was, did they bring back Song of the South? And I was not disappointed because the last line of this article was, you might be wondering about Song of the South. Disney is not going to talk about the Song of the South. It does not exist.
Well, I mean, what can they do? That one makes sense. I kind of get that one. They mentioned a couple of things. They had one Muppet who was kind of a Native American Muppet, but they called him an Indian. They didn't like that. Was it Johnny Cash?
Johnny Cash performing in front of a Confederate flag was also flagged.
Wow.
So stuff like that. And I mean, this was even before our time. I mean, I recognize these names.
Was Johnny Cash actually racist, or was that just a symbol of rebellion?
No, it's just South, just Southern. That was back when, the Dukes of Hazzard. That was before the Dukes of Hazzard.
Well, things were not, super diverse on the Dukes of Hazzard.
Well, Hazard County was fictional, but I've been to Hazard, Kentucky, and you have too.
Not a lot of diversity.
No, I don't remember seeing a single brown-skinned person in Hazard, Kentucky in my entire life. So, it's realistic. You know what?
Darkest possible timeline.
Here's the thing. Do you think there was ever like a really rock star moonshine runner who was black?
Oh yeah. No, there's a couple of from like the 1800s during or the late 1800s, and then some of them came back during Prohibition. And so you had like these, like 65, 70-year-old people that had like, run.
But let me clarify. Moonshine. Because there's the movie.
Yeah.
That movie gets greenlit tomorrow.
Blazing Saddles, but moonshine runners in the 1920s, 1930s.
Nah, it'd be the Dukes of Hazzard style stuff. It'd be like 60s, 50s, 60s. But they got to be black. And they got to deal with that on top of running the moonshine. I'm telling you, we'll probably see that next year. So anyway, enjoy the Muppets, but be warned, as Disney will tell you, that some things have changed over time. Do you not remember we did this almost exact same story?
We did.
So this is a
common problem.
This is second. Now here, actually, I'll talk about that after we do the story.
Wild Australian sheep gets sheared of 78 pounds of wool. The ailing animal was found in a forest outside of Melbourne, and his name is Ba Rak. Who's named Ba Rak.
Is it Ba Rak or Barack?
Barack.
I like yours a lot better, but I can't do that with my voice.
Really?
Yeah.
Try again.
How much of a donation do you need to try that for the 10 minutes?
You were asked as a kid, like, what sound does the sheep make?
Bah.
You had the little thing that spun around like the farmer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Moo. Bah.
bah.
I can only do the guttural interruption. I can't do the high and the low. Have
So-
no vocal cord control.
Well, this fellow, Barack, he they thought he had a tag in his ear, or he had a hole in his ear where the tag had once been, but the wool had grown so dense it had ripped the tag out.
Yeah.
Oh.
So here's my question, and this is really, really sad when I think about it, but I think it's true. Is it the case that after the last human succumbs to radiation poisoning, the sheep are gone in 5 years?
Yeah, well, from the looks of this one, more like 10. But yeah.
What a terrible way for them to go, too.
Yeah.
Now, do we have sheep experts? Do we have like heavy wool sheeps and still some not heavy wool sheeps, or we manipulated all the sheep?
I wonder if there are a few genetic freaks among the sheep population that will naturally shed once it gets to a certain length.
Assuming the breeding age for a sheep is much less than 10 years, could they cycle through enough to get back to, because it'll select toward low wool.
I remember reading about a cat that had a genetic deficiency or a genetic defect like this, and it would never shed. It just kept getting longer and longer and longer hair.
Wow.
I think it's just like certain types of breeds that are bred for their wool are the ones that have to be sheared every year by humans. But I don't think like wild sheep, that's not a problem.
But are there enough wild sheep in every location? Would one continent have sheep? That's the one that has wild
I
ones.
mean,
and
that's
then-
the way it was for ages. Sheep aren't native to the Americas, as far as I know.
Our next story, like at some point in your lifetime, if you're in the U.S., probably you will be called to a grand jury. Odds are it happens to all of us once, at least in your life. So you should pay attention to the next story.
I don't think that's true at all.
No,
The
yeah,
odds
it
of
is.
being called to a grand jury have to be minuscule for the average American.
Once in your life.
That can't be the case. Somebody looked that statistic up. But anyway, yes, this was federal prosecutors, and oh my God, this is a ridiculously long article, but it just gets more and more terrifying as you dig more and more into it. They've basically admitted, not admitted in court, but admitted because their records were subpoenaed and all their emails were exposed, that they basically broke every rule in the book.
They railroaded a guy. It's like, yeah, we lied, quote unquote. Messages show prosecutors panic over missteps in a federal case. So there was a guy who was a business owner, and at the federal level, they thought that he was using his business to clandestinely send money to Iran.
He was an Iranian guy.
Yeah.
But, he moved a lot of money in and out of the U.S. as part of his normal business.
And they found some evidence that supported that, they had a conversation with him, I guess, charged him, and he had a defense. And in the prosecution doing the homework, they found some documentation that supported his defense that he didn't have, and they withheld that. And that is not an okay thing to do in the U.S. rules of jurisprudence.
And they didn't just withhold it to get the win, although I wouldn't put that past them. What's much worse is they held it back, it seems, to get his sweet, sweet money seized, which they would benefit from directly, which, of course, is the poison of asset forfeiture.
Yeah, so they railroaded this guy, and whatever level of guilt that he might have had, including zero level of guilt, they've completely ruined any chance of like really actually figuring out what happened here, which is terrible.
Now, I bet all these people end up in jail, right?
No.
Never.
Oh, so if there's any justice, yes, but
No.
I mean,
Nothing will happen to them. They will be prosecuting cases from now on.
I was, the prosecutor that was gung-ho after Aaron Schwartz, I was happy that Biden passed over her, which is good, but the other person that he picked wasn't a lot better.
What about that person who campaigned on the social justice platform but spent her whole life locking up?
That's the VP.
Yeah. He picked her.
He did pick her. Yeah, well, the one that he did pick was not much better than the Aaron Schwartz prosecutor lady, but both of them were out of control in my opinion.
Well, you know what else is out of control?
Mr. Potato Head.
Gender in the potato world. Because this is what we need to introduce to children. At what age is Mr. Potato Head geared toward? Like
I read the Gwyneth Paltrow story before this, and I was like, oh, Gwyneth Paltrow is, because she's got the toy where it's like just a block and some string and stuff, and it's like, it's up to the child to imagine what the toy is, and it's like,
Well, then I have to imagine this. It's been done for them.
Mr. Potato Head drops the Mr. sort of, so now we have a more effeminate Potato Head and Baby Potato Head. Maybe baby is a state of mind.
I don't think Baby Potato Head even has a gender.
Yeah.
Although they are potatoes.
Potatoes don't have a gender.
genders. They also don't have teeth and eyes and hair.
Yeah, it was
Remember,
Mr. and Mrs.
remember-
These are both misters.
remember Potato Head used to actually be just the plastic things, and you would supply your own potato.
I don't even remember that.
That was the marketing breakthrough of
I
like
don't remember that.
1964 was like, Jenkins, we're going to give them a plastic potato. It's like, Bob, a plastic potato? What do you mean? It's like, well, you know, kids put a potato in their toy box, and it's just not doesn't have the longevity of modern, you know, elastomeric plastics. Jenkins, that's brilliant.
You should do the rest of the news program in that voice.
No.
So,
Great.
if you read the fine print, there actually still is a Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head, but the Mr. and Mrs. has been shrunk down to a tiny font, and they really are trying to emphasize away from the gender of the potatoes.
Well, they're going to have to come up with names eventually. Like that's the solution there. If they don't want them to use honorifics.
Wouldn't you? Isn't part of the potato experience naming your own potato head?
I think
Well, I
part
mean,
of
that's like Barbie. Like, you know, oh, I'm playing with a Barbie, but her name is Sarah.
Sarah Barbie.
you know,
Yeah.
for me playing with the Transformers and He-Man stuff, part of the play was the journey of the development of the character. You know, it's like he had some really hard times, and you know, he sort of saw things differently by the end. You know, he grew as a person.
He really didn't, though. I mean, Prince Adam was rich. He didn't really have a lot of struggle, and then He-Man was basically invincible.
Yeah.
He had a pretty easy time of it. It was the people around him who suffered.
So like any C-level executive then.
And exactly like this young man from North Korea. Because, oh boy, his family is suffering for his mistakes.
Teenage boy caught watching something I'm not going to say because of the filters has been exiled to the countryside with family. Now, like, as you said, this was North Korea. Yeah.
The name of this law, do you remember what it was? It's so fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
It was
Anti-reactionary thought law.
So this is literally the thought police. So this kid waited. He waited so patiently. I imagine he had some kind of like CD or something like that, some kind of media. He waited for his parents to be out of the house. They were out doing something else, and it was late at night, and he snuck in, and he put on some adult video. And the thought police were right outside the door, kicked the door in, and caught him.
Oh.
Oh, wow. Think about living like that, where that's a reality.
That's gonna like mess him up a little bit.
Well,
Like,
not as much as living in the countryside and squalor and starving with the rest of his family, which was his punishment.
also, I mean, like, is he gonna associate normal sexual feelings with the horrible thing that happened to my family when I was like 16?
Yes.
Well, I'm sure they're going to bring it up from time to time.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's, I mean, like that sucks for everyone in that scenario. What a horrible.
Pretty sure that's how we got Mao Zedong.
Do you think that the thought police, the raid team, when they go back to the office, are they like, yeah, we really got that one? Or are they like, oh, God, what are we doing?
Probably the latter.
Who are we?
Yeah, probably the latter.
Why are we like this?
They high five each other. Got another one.
I don't think our cops do that.
That just opened up a whole flood of dark and terrible. Yeah.
Oh.
It's just
Although we're back to loving them after the Capitol insurrection. We hated them during the summer. But now spring, cops are back in fashion.
The writers are really just pulling off these twists in ways that I could have never expected
Well,
back in
Krista,
2019.
if you want a real twist, this next story, this would have been the most amazing Antiques Roadshow revelation in the history of the show.
Yeah.
This would have been the peak
Yeah.
of the show.
Yeah.
Krista, read the headline.
Oh, sorry. Antique Chinese traditional fruit basket sold on Amazon for $72 is actually a chamber pot.
Oh, it's down to 61. It's on sale.
They're selling a
Oh,
lot of them.
Yeah.
with free shipping.
We should do an Antiques Roadshow skit where it's something like this, and it's like, oh yeah, I've been using this as a champagne server, and it's like, well, I've got some good news for you. You could actually pay off your house with this. It's from the Ming Dynasty. The bad news is this is a chamber pot.
Oh.
Is that equal measures of horrifying and delight?
I probably wouldn't care. I'd be like, hell yeah.
It was
It is a
clean.
chamber pot. I got a pot to piss in.
Listen, if we're gonna make that much money, I'd fill it up with champagne right now.
Yeah.
I'll drink out of it. It's like the Stanley Cup. Like,
Well, the new presidential administration in the U.S. has not gone as far as many people expected to cool the problems with China. We're still having problems with China. And one thing about the Chinese, when it comes to, like politics and stuff like that, little things mean a lot to them. They like to have that. I guess the idea of face is more Japanese, but the Chinese have that too as well.
Yeah.
Right? So I think this might have been a face thing. Now they're saying that absolutely they didn't do this, but I don't know.
Reuters reports that China has denied requiring U.S. diplomats to take rear entrance swab tests for the thing. So, yeah.
Apparently those tests are better.
Then some diplomats reported this. Don't think the diplomats would make that up.
Hey, bro, they totally put a Q-tip in my ass earlier.
So they're saying that was optional, but the diplomats are saying it was certainly not optional.
Tickle your brain, tickle your colon. Which one do you want?
Is that, I mean, obviously, like, that's not a fun thing for anybody, but, like, is that unique to just, our diplomats, or are they doing that to everybody? Because if it's everybody, it's like, well, I mean, that's just their policy.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think only U.S. diplomats so far have complained.
It's a troll. It's like that, was it a Saturday Night Live skit? No, it was a Kids in the Hall skit. The Ass Pennies Kid in the Hall skit. You can Google that later. We don't care about that for right now.
Again, do you not remember another story?
Yes, but no one was killed.
But how long must we suffer?
Yeah.
This is insane. Why are we doing this?
Liberty, New York man has been killed in a gender reveal explosion. Well, that's revealing.
Yeah, well, it did ruin the surprise because what they did is they had stuffed colored powder into an explosive device.
Decorative shrapnel.
Yeah, well, basically. And now this was not during the party. This was during the construction of the gender reveal bomb.
Explosive, yeah.
Yeah. So that guy's dead. Unfortunately, he will never meet his child.
Wait,
So
is it the
sad.
dad, or was it just
Yeah, it was the
someone? Oh,
dad. It was
yeah.
the dad and his brother.
This is probably a Darwin Awards winner, except for it's too late.
I've been to baby showers. I've been to a couple gender reveal parties, and I've never had one with an explosive. And I'm like, am I missing out?
I got to tell you, if I had to go to a baby shower, I would love some pyrotechnics. But I want them to be built by professionals.
I mean, it would make it more exciting, I guess. But like, I've never been to one that had one.
I don't know what to tell you, Kristen. Maybe you need to broaden your social circle. Hang out with some cooler people.
I guess, yeah. Most of the time, they just come out with like a cake, and then you cut it, and it's a different color.
Now, here's the other thing about getting killed during a gender reveal. Aren't we supposed to be ignoring gender in 2021? I thought that was the thing.
know.
Gender doesn't exist anymore. In fact, that's what this woman has built her whole product on.
Woman has made a gender-neutral playing card deck report. With the new cards, replace kings and queens, jacks with gold, or kings, queens, and jacks with gold, silver, and bronze.
Okay.
That's the thing that you can buy if
Yeah.
you want to.
The gold of spades just doesn't have the same ring to it.
How can we make the suits also bad? We can come up with a way that the suits are bad.
Let's call a spade a spade.
Those diamonds are blood diamonds.
They're
They're red.
Elon Musk diamonds.
Oh. I thought it was emeralds. Didn't his family
I'm
own an
sorry.
emerald mine?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Emeralds. Well,
Someone can correct me. in the comments this week.
Krista, I wanted to get your thoughts on this one, as you are the artiste among us. It is ugly, I guess, in this screenshot. But is it that ugly?
Whoops.
Headline.
I accidentally closed the tab.
Oh, hurry! Hurry, get it back!
Portion of rail expansion so ugly that 2 architectural firms quit the project. Report.
Wow, I didn't know you could do that. I've certainly worked on projects where leadership was taking it in such a grotesque direction, but I didn't realize that quitting was an option.
So these guys felt that this portion of it should go underground as their architectural vision. They're like, this part's kind of ugly. Let's just put that underground. And so they did they looked and they were like, if we do that, we're going to have to move gas lines, water lines, sewage lines, and 1 or 2 buildings might collapse. So we're not going to do that. And the architects were just like, turn the table over.
I don't think this looks awful. I mean, it's not like, wow, the most beautiful, incredible, innovative building I've ever seen, but like, it's functional, which just seems what you would want out of a rail station. But
people can use it, yeah. I mean, certainly, again, the aforementioned projects was like, I insist that you build it this way. And it's like, there's no entrance to your building. How will people get inside it and use it? It's like, it doesn't matter. Don't think. Just do. It's like, okay.
But what if you had to put your name on it, Krista? What if that? Because this is a huge project that they will be known for.
Surely there's ways you can make it pretty while also that's the thing. That's what design is realizing what your technical constraints are and then managing to make something beautiful and functional at the same time. Like that. If you're not interested in that, why did you go into this field?
Money.
Why didn't you just go into fine art where you don't really have to answer to anybody about functional stuff?
Because you will be homeless if you do that.
That's true. That is part of the reason I chose graphic design over painting.
Well, that was a mistake. They shouldn't have done that. But it's nowhere near the size of the mistake that this man made. Because this was a phenomenally stupid thing to do.
Incredibly stupid.
And afterwards, to admit to it, also phenomenally stupid, although I think they kind of had him.
Homeless Peoria man has been sentenced to 15 years after using the police Wi-Fi to download very bad things that are definitely flagged by the algorithm.
So he was in a shelter next door. This means that Illinois Police Department has unsecured Wi-Fi.
Maybe that makes sense.
Does it?
I mean, maybe not that powerful.
While you're waiting, in the waiting room to come pick up your niece or nephew, you need to be able to browse the Facebook.
No, you should be punished along with them. So anyway, this guy has a terrible history, and there was no question did he do this or not, because his crimes were of that nature. So he's going away forever. He will be monitored for the rest of his life at huge cost to the Illinois taxpayers, and oh boy, does Illinois not have any extra money for that. This one, I feel for this girl right here, because she's become the meme.
She has,
and she didn't do anything.
Yeah.
She didn't do anything to deserve the meme, but she is now the face of this, for good or for ill. Also, don't point out that a Defiant America is a crappy news source. I know that it is, but it's the same story everywhere.
Brace yourself, America. High school forces kids in band to play in green igloo bubbles. I kind of want one of these. This would be amazing. Like when I have to travel and I'm at the airport and I don't want to talk to anybody, I could just go in my bubble.
What, is this a tuba?
Yes, that's a tuba.
That's the best one.
These things are popular at like kids' soccer games. So like if it's supposed to rain or sprinkle, the parents will come out with their little lawn chairs and then they put this thing over top.
Now that has to mess with the sound, right?
Almost certainly, I was going to say. I mean, that fabric's thin, it's nylon, but...
Store.level1text.com.
What about the percussion section?
I like that the solution of just like, go to the gym and spread out was not an option. It was...
When I saw the tuba, I thought cello. And it's like, cello is not going to work in the green thing.
Any kind of larger bass stringed instrument is going to be too
probably
much.
not
Yeah,
even
you're
a
not going to
violin.
have enough space.
No, because of the angle.
Yeah.
You're going to be... the bow is going to be like jamming against the top.
Yeah.
Could you play that higher? No. No, I literally can't because I'm in a bubble.
They make a special version of it where it's just a big sphere on top of the thing, and it's like, oh, I'm a violin player.
Or there's one cylindrical tube, and that's where the bow has to like thread into every time.
Maybe this picture's actually like pre-pandemic, and it's really just after Taco Tuesday in the cafeteria. They're making everybody, you know, stay in their own tents.
Well, that could also poison the audio.
It could.
Well, how about 2 weeks in a row that we have stories about feminine hygiene?
Hey.
This might be this is in the running for dumbest thing that a politician has ever thought in history.
Now, Krista, we were just talking about this, you know, because like the Texas thing and our ice storm, we were thinking about getting more into prepping and
Right.
having more stuff on hand. So as a would-be prepper, does this appeal to you? Headline.
Oh, sorry. I was like, wait, what do you mean it appeals to me? It doesn't really appeal to me. Lawmakers worry that sales tax exemption means women will buy too many tampons.
Well, let me explain it to you, Krista, because I know you read the story, but you probably overlooked the important aspect. This is one weekend a year.
Literally, the dumbest thing.
You could now they point out. Let's see how this number is for you, Krista. They say that the average woman spends, I think it was $170 a year on these items,
Yeah, that sounds about right.
and you could cut 7 to 10% of that if you bought your entire year's supply in one day.
Once again, a law that punishes the poor.
Right.
Now that you have your new house, you could store them somewhere.
It's true. I actually do keep a small cache of that kind of stuff just because that makes sense. It's something that's not going away for a while. But I also you can get reusables as well. But again, this is stupid either way. No matter what you use, you should be able to get it regardless.
Well, you can still get them, but in Tennessee doesn't have income tax, right? State income tax, but they do have sales tax. Is that how that works?
Yeah.
I think so.
I'm not sure.
So one weekend a year, you can buy things like clothes and computers and, you know, like back to school type stuff, tax free in Tennessee. And they're afraid that if they add feminine products to this, that a mob of women will buy
We'll just come in and buy all of it.
Yeah. It'd be like the cicada and the locusts. Just strip the feminine aisle into nothing. And probably there'd be people trampled.
Do they do that with like things like deodorant and soap though? That's a question.
I don't know.
Because these are on the same category of like deodorant and soap. You need them. Like, do you want me just free bleeding everywhere? The answer is no. No one wants that.
That would be crazy because when people got trampled in this stampede, they could be covered in blood and just still be okay.
And then, yeah, and it's like, who knows what kind of blood that is.
Yeah. Terrifying. That would be a terrifying weekend for the Tennesseans, the volunteers.
What a stupid law.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if the law is bad. Like, why not give women the opportunity to buy this tax free, right?
Well, that's what I mean. Like, just why are they worried about this? Why is this a problem?
Exactly.
I think it is geared toward people going back to school. So if you're a teenage girl, you're going back to school, your parents take you out, you bring back the whole SUV full of feminine products.
Full of tampons.
You sell it out the back of your van at a flea market across state lines.
Or just while you're at school. You become known as the girl who always has those for 50 cents or whatever.
That's a girl code thing. That, like, even if like your worst enemy came up to you in the bathroom and was like, I don't have a tampon, you would give her one. No charge, like nothing. It's like, oh no, you can absolutely have one if you've got one.
I don't know, Krista, because you say it's girl code. I don't think every girl would do that. And you know who I don't think would give you one, but would instead charge you for it? Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yes.
I agree.
The NHS has warned against Gwyneth Paltrow's kombucha and kimchi advice about the current global situation. The Hollywood actor, there's a subhead there, but let me just save you the trouble of reading this article. She has no idea what she's talking about when it comes to health matters. Just don't even bother.
But she's an actress, Wendell.
She wants you to fast and eat all these very expensive, hard to source items. You also need to be doing very regular ultraviolet saunas. You have one of those, right?
Oh, obviously.
Yeah.
Doesn't everybody?
And you also have to fast, and there's a variety of other things. And the NHS spokesperson came out and said, none of these things are on our list of things to do
Please don't.
if you have this. They also pointed out there's another candle coming. And this candle is going to be, instead of the last one that was titled, This Smells Like a Part of My Body, the next one would be, This Smells Like My Orgasm. I don't understand why that would be different from the first one.
I can understand. I mean, that's kind of... never mind.
Maybe just stronger.
She played in a movie called Contagion, and you get to watch her brain get cut open. So, I mean, if you want to feel better about this story, you can watch that movie.
Have you ever seen that clip?
There's nothing here.
Called the CDC.
Have you ever seen that clip? There's a clip where they're talking. It's a bunch of people together and they're talking, and she was like, "Oh, Samuel Jackson, we have to do a movie together someday. Why have we never done a movie together?" And he's like, "What? The Avengers." I was in the Avengers, and she was like, "Oh." She had no idea that Samuel Jackson. She's never seen the Avengers.
Wow.
Doesn't she have a pretty minor role though?
But not
Like,
in the Marvel
they do
universe. In the
together?
Iron Man movie, she was very upfront.
I don't really keep up with all that anymore, so I don't remember.
She had probably like 50, 60 lines in all three movies. She was there.
She was there a lot more in Iron Man 3,
Yeah.
the third movie.
I mean, she's definitely more in the Iron Man movies, but she was in the Avengers.
I think I've only seen like the first.
Wait a minute,
one or
wasn't
two
wasn't
Iron
Shield
Man.
and Iron Man 2? Or was that before they made it Samuel Jackson? Who cares?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
These donations are far more important.
Oh, yes, the donations, right. Yes, so that's the end of episode 3. Thank you all for joining us. It's donation time, and also you can, like free question answer time before I have to take my mom's cat to the vet. USS Liberty Incident says, best wishes to Wendell's mom's cat. Thank you.
He's always there for us.
Bo,
reminding us.
Bo gave us $20 and says, big fan of everything you guys do. Looking forward to some more smart home stuff. Loving what you put out so far. It's been a lot of work to do what we've done so far. There are a lot of traps in the smart home system. Game Guy gave us $2.
Well, if you build it right, there are.
Those are illegal.
Shotgun traps.
Game Guy gave us $2 and says, what brand of hard drives are you upgrading to? They're helium filled WD Reds. Token Mike Polywell says $5. Thanks for the interesting topics. Datum Tarek gave us €5. 98% of data transfer of the rover is done by EU satellites. So thank you, EU. Touche, good sir. Touche.
Oh, I wonder why that is.
That's probably because the planet's pointed the right way. I don't know.
But it spins.
Well, Dr. Fistingstein
Good username. I saw that when it came up.
gave us $10.
Do you think he's a real doctor?
No. I heard a very faint sound. I tracked it down, and it was my Echo. It was on the lowest volume playing Devil Went Down to Georgia. It's been for days. USOB. Well played, good sir.
I didn't
Well
know
played.
I didn't know if the repeat thing would really work. It's good to know
That's
that it does.
hilarious.
Felipe gave us R $10. Shout out from a Brazilian data protection lawyer. You all have helped me think and understand international data related news for years. Keep up the exceptional work. We'll try. I don't know if it's exceptional, but we'll
there's
try.
a guy that should have some insight into the Experian thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Victor Villa gave us $5 and says, Remington made an electronic gun, and a channel on YouTube called Forgotten Weapons made a video about it. It's called the Remington Model 700 ETRONX. There was one that had a ring, like an RFID ring that would activate the ammo clip as well.
Well, the Remington 700 is just a regular gun that they make. Did they just just bolt something onto that?
Probably.
I think that's like a 30-06 rifle, isn't it?
Is the facepalm figure 3D printed? No, it's like real fake bronze. See, it's nice. And it's heavy. Phil Fraley says, any recommendations for secure Wi-Fi bulbs? No, you don't want a Wi-Fi bulb. Please no. Z-Wave or Zigbee is probably more secure. J.W. Dickinson, again, says, here's some money for gas, for the kitty trip. Oh, thanks.
Aw.
Keyboard Warrior, NZ, $10. Love from New Zealand. Mark Gilbert says, have you ever ran Beehive? You can use DFS data. Yes, it's pretty good. There's some VMware stuff on it. It is pretty good. I was going to do a video on it, but then I went down a rabbit hole of like edge cases with Beehive, and I decided it wasn't ready yet, but it's something I need to revisit with TrueNAS Core. So there you go. Well, thank you for joining us on this live Level 1 News. We
Woohoo!
appreciate it. We appreciate all the stuff that you guys do to support us. Be sure to check out Linode again. And thanks again to Linode for sponsoring us. You can do tutorials. Oh, it's because it crashed.
Oh.
You can do tutorials for Linode. And Linode's tutorials are quite good for learning how to do stuff. So
Drifted.
You drifted a bit, yes. So,
It went dark.
does anybody have any
Everyone's saying,
final questions before we go?
It's back.
Oh.
You just haven't got there yet.
Yeah, chat. There's a lot of F's in the chat.
We're back.
Oh.
Some people are delayed.
I was trying to move the files, but then I realized, I don't have to do that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we're gonna break it up or do whatever. Any chance of a follow-up review of the current review of the next Surface Book Pro? They haven't really done anything super innovative.
The Surface 8 is coming soon, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the tablet. So that's the this thing.
But that's not the 8, is it?
No, that's the 3.
No. Yeah, the 8's not out yet.
Yeah, this is good to harvest for parts for yours if you want, so you can have a battery again.
Is
I
there
like
a
the
PGP
Surface.
stream tonight? Yes, we'll be playing Valheim tonight on Twitch.
I might not be there if my cat's super sick, or my mom's cat, so we'll see.
I've been wanting to play it all week. My husband started playing with some of our friends, and he's been talking about it. And he's like,
but Krista,
you'll love it. It'll be so fun." And I'm like, "I can't play it till Friday."
But if Wendell's not here, we might have to delay till Sunday.
Oh no, I'll probably be here.
No.
Datum
I'll probably be
Tarek,
moving all weekend, so I won't have a ton of time to play. But
Datum Tarek in the Bernie Sanders voice is saying, "I'm once again asking to please correct the copyright on the store."
okay,
Do we even?
Yeah, it's we can
I have
it.
access to it. I can go
Okay.
through and look at it.
John Gogo gave us $5 and says another 5 for saying my name right. Oh, thanks.
Dab on.
Well, we will catch you all later. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next week.
Thank you guys very much.
Yep. Thanks for the free money.
Oh, look. Logan Edmonds says, rebuilding a VPN the last second for 50 user. Thanks for giving me the illusion of a company and keeping me awake. Check out OpenVPN. OpenVPN, probably pretty good. Your clients probably don't support WireGuard. WireGuard's actually better. But the OpenVPN stuff's pretty neat. Especially the stuff built into PFSense. It's point and click. You can download point and click installer. It's really good. All right. Thank you. We'll see you.